Right. I should have started streaming again. Right, okay, apparently YouTube is now saying I'm live. So that looks like I've managed to get that going. Now I need to do, hang on. I think that I need to just do something here. Right, so I've got chat sort of working. Hang on. I think it might be working now. Alright then. I think I've now gone live. So let me test the chat. Got a little hello. Hello from me in the chat there. And there we go, look. Oh, it's upside down. That is upside down. Incredible. Okay. Right. Are we now ready to go? Let's just do it. I think the text might be a bit small on the thing, but let me know. I can probably make it bigger if I need to. So, complete blank slate here. This is my Eclipse. It's Eclipse IDE. This is where I write all my code, and I'm going to create a new Java project. It's going to be from scratch. So we're just going to call it weird griddy thingy. So, for context, for anyone that happens to randomly be watching this, my brother has made this awesome thing using Scratch, which is this whole you decide how big a grid is going to be, and then it will draw this grid on the screen, and you can like move a dot around, and you can put blocking squares and stuff on it, so you can interact with it. And I guess really that's kind of like a base, like a starting point of like a top-down grid-based game or something like that, or just for have a play and see what you can do. But the thing is, he's made this thing in Scratch. I mean, what Scratch is, it's mental. I mean, it's a drag and drop thing where you've got these sprawling ass pictures of just like bits of code that you drag. The point is, the achievement of doing what he's done is massive compared to the effort that it would take to try and get that far, and then expand on it in something like this. So anyway, I've got no code here. This is just saying, look, I'm using Java. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff here. So this is my source code. I don't have any source code. And so I'm going to create a new Java class, and this is just going to be the main class that you actually run everything from. So in here, and this is just something you normally have to do for every bit of code that you're writing, is just create this thing. And don't worry about what I'm doing right now. But actually, I will talk a little bit about what it is. This is a, that's weird. This is just, here's Java. When you run a program, you're using, like, heaven forbid, using DOS, you go run the program, and then you put command arguments after you. So like run it with a switch to make it silent, or run it but in full screen, or run it but. So this is, say you ran this program, you would say run, and we can call it run, and then you would go, okay, so it's called run, and then here, this is where your parameters that you would have typed in come from, and I'm going to say that parameters, because that's what you call them. They're like, these are the parameters for your program, and they come into this program in this thing here. In this structure is a list of strings, which is just typed in like text, numbers, whatever. So for instance, this hello world, that would be a string. And I can say, well, I'm going to make a new string, and I'm going to call it greeting, and that new string looks like this, hello world. So that's a string. But this string array here is going to contain a bunch of strings, and it's some length of strings based on how many things I typed in when I ran the program. Completely irrelevant. We don't really need to worry about that. But essentially, that's what you always need to start up a Java program, and they might as well just give that to you when you start a project, really, because it needs to be there. If I want to run it, I want to have something happen, so I'm going to do the standard old hello world that everyone writes when they okay. So this is a command that lets me print text to the command line. I'm going to print out my greeting that I've defined. So I've defined greeting as hello world, and I'm going to print it out to the screen, and then I can run this program, run as okay, run configuration, Java application. So I'm just going to tell it that it needs to run my main class. Oh, okay. To be honest, I don't know what I'm doing here. Normally, I got a bit stuck because normally you go right-click, run as, and you get an option there that says run as Java application, and then you're all happy because you're running as Java application. I've just installed this, so whatever. I should just run it from here. Run, run it. Come on, play, run. Okay, fuck's sake. So I want to run this configuration. My project is weird grid thingy, and I want to run it. For some reason, it can't see my class. I'm going to guess here that it's just because I've named my package. So let's just rename this. Refactor, rename. What the fuck is going on here? This is not the Eclipse that I know. Anyway, do I have a cat? Well, I mean, I could put a cat in here if I wanted to. What's like the text resolution and stuff like if you're watching? Because I don't know if it's coming out right. Anyway, how do I fucking do this? I'm really annoyed. Sorry, I'm really sorry. It should have just come up and said run as Java. It's a Java program. It should have just said, here you go, run it. So Java main class. I don't understand why I can't rename the bloody package, right? Maybe it doesn't think it's in the package right now. Right, let's make a package. And that just means basically a folder structure. So we're going to call it let's just call it pip.main. Okay, so now it's in a package called pip.main, and now if I run, and I go to my configuration and I say I don't understand why it bloody can't find a bloody Java file. How is it not finding it? Like, what the fuck is it looking for? Project. I honestly, what the absolute fuck is going on? Because how am I supposed to fucking do this if it doesn't even let you run it? New Java project. Project name. Weird grid thingy. Say 2. Add project to working set. Oh, hang on a minute. I think that I need to add this to my build path. No, I don't, because it was already on the build path. That's fuck it. New Java project. Weird grid thingy. 2. Right, so I'm using Java 8. That's what I want to do. Now next. So that should really work. Yeah, alright, okay. This is a setup thing that once you've done it, you're not going to have to do it again. It's nothing to do with writing code. It's just that this is the IDE that I'm using. Actually, all the cool kids nowadays, they're using something called IntelliJ, and it's meant to be way better, way easier. The reason I'm using Eclipse is because I've never used IntelliJ before, and I thought, hey, I can use this. You know, it's going to be fine, and it should be. But I've just installed it. I've just installed Java, and the thing is just not doing what I'm used to, and it's because I'm using a different version, and it's not. It's just not going my way at all. Right, so I've got a source folder called source, right? That's okay, that's normal. This all looks right, okay. So here's weird thingy grid thingy 2. And let's make a package. And we're gonna call it grid.main. Okay. And then in grid.main we're gonna put this main. The other option it could be that actually what I've done is wrong in terms of making that main class, and that's why it's not working. It can't find a main class because I've actually made one. So main.java public static void. Yeah, I think it has to be called main, and I renamed it to go. Oh look, it could be run. That was my mistake there. Now if I go run as, see that? Basically, I renamed that to go. Oh, it could have been run. Stupid, because no, it has to be called main in Java. That's how it works. Run Java application, and you can see on my console, I've just printed out hello world. Yay, that's my first code here, right? So it's working now. I can run it. If I click play up here now, it's going to run my project whenever I click play. So play hello world, clear out my console, click play, hello world. Just to prove that, we wanted a cat, didn't we? So let's just put meow and play. Yep, save it. Meow now comes out on here. Okay, so that was my stupid fault for not calling it the right name. So that should have been called main, and I called it run. So all I want to do now is the main is just going to be as small as it possibly can be, and it's just going to sort of start your program up. So we're going to make some code, and we're going to go, and we're going to make a a grid dot, well, let's just call it grid. Let's just go into grid. Oh, okay. Let's call it grid dot array. And that's just a package where some of my code can go. And we're going to make a class that's called just our grid. So this is going to be the data for our grid. So what Pip, my brother, had, because you're the only person watching, had, was the ability to say, I want a grid that's like 10 by 5, and it can create this grid, or however many. So we're going to make this, the grid is going to be able to take in a length and maybe also a height and a width, or like a length or whatever. So let's just call it a height going up and a length or width. Width and height, let's go width and height. So the width is how many across we're going to go. So we're going to want a number for the width, and we're going to want a number for the height. So now a grid can have, and when we create a grid, now it can have a width and a height. And that's what that's doing there. So this is saying when you make a grid, you can take two different parameters, and one of the parameters is going to be its width and one's going to be its height. And the int is just an indicator that's a number. There's a few different things. They're called primitive data types. You've got an int, you've got a boolean, which is just true or false, and then there's other types of numbers. Like if you want decimal places, you've got double. It doesn't matter. We don't need those right now. We just need a width and a height. So int, width, int, height, and then we want to create a grid that can have things in it. Now, if we would say in proper Java is object oriented, we might make an object that represents one grid cell. And it might be like, this grid cell can have properties in it, like what color it is and all these things. But we don't want to do that. We're just going to say we've got a grid, and the number in that value, in that square of the grid, represents its state. So 0 could be empty, 1 could be there's a person in it, 2 could be there's an obstacle in it, whatever. But basically that will be your grid will be that. So if I say in grid square 1, and this is probably what you would have been doing in if you were using something like Scratch, you're going to be going, oh, I can make an integer, I can make a number, I'll call it grid square 1, and then that equals 0. And then I can go, oh, well, what about if I make another number, and that's called grid square 2, and you can go, oh, I'm going to literally hard code every single number in my grid. So you could pretty easily go, I've got a 10 by 10 grid, I've made 100 values, here they all are, this is each number, okay? So that's just totally wrong. You don't want to be doing that like that. And obviously that's not going to work if you're allowing someone to give you a width and a height, because you can't know how many squares you're going to need. So what you can do, and that's what, if I go back to the main method here, that string with these square brackets there, that means it's an array of strings. So it's any number of strings all referenced by the same name. So my grid is going to be a certain number of squares long. So actually I want to say I've got an int array, and my int array is going to be my int array is going to be called grid. And there's lots of things called grid, so let's call it grid data. So my int array is going to be called grid data, and it's going to have in it how many values. It's going to equal a new int array, and the number of values it's going to have are width times by the height. So now I have made a data structure that's got the number of numbers that I need, and it's all in one line. And what I mean by that is 0 means the top left corner, and whatever means the bottom right. So it's going to go okay. Now that's a way that you can do it, and let's just stick with that for now. If I do it like this, and I guess that's what you did, But you don't have to do that in Java. Well, you have to do what you can do is you can actually say, well, it's an int array, and then you can go, well, the first number accesses the row, and then the next number accesses is the column. So you can go, well, number 5, number 2. So you can literally reference it like a coordinate system. You can go 5 7, and it will go 5 7, and that. So you can do it like that if you want. I'm going to do that for now. Let's just go back. That's how many squares we've got in a grid. Okay. And they're all going to be, because it's an int, they're all going to start at 0. So now we're going to have an empty grid. So I don't know what you did. Like, did you just go, oh, let's put some random blockers in there, or did you have it so you could type in what you wanted to block and then it worked? Or oh, I can't put that picture on. So can you send it on? Can you just take a screenshot and send it in Steam or something? Anyway, that defines my data, and then I can go. Well, technically, I've created that grid data, but it's underlined there because it's saying, well, you're never referencing it. What are you going to do? And yeah, that's true. Inside this constructor here, all I've done is make it. That's useless. But let's say my grid contains grid data. So instead of I'm just doing it as a one line, what I want to do is I want to create this thing that's called a field that's inside my grid, and my grid contains this thing called grid data. And grid data is a grid array. And then when you create it, that's going to set my grid data to this value here. Okay, so I've got a grid, I've created it, whatever. Well, I haven't created it yet, but you can create it. You can create it any height, any width, and when you do it, that's going to be, you're going to have a bunch of zeros in a big long line of array references. So if I was to, well, let's just have an access. So what I'll do for now is I'll have a get grid data method, and that will return my array for me, so I can have a look in it in my main class. And if I could type, I'd be a genius. Right. So that is now a thing that exists. So in my main line, let's get rid of the hello world, and I'm going to go grid custom grid. So what I'm saying here is that I'm making a new field called, that is a grid, because I've made this thing now called a grid, so I can make many grids if I want to. So grid custom grid is a new grid, and I'm going to make a 4x5 grid. So eventually we can make it so that a person that's using it can type in how many rows and how many columns they want. Yeah, sorry, that should have been a public constructor. Don't worry about that. So now I've got a custom grid of 4x5. What are you saying? Hang on. It just says failed to load. And what is that? Honestly, what is that? Okay, so this is what you do in Scratch. Actually, that's like a user input. And then then it just sets answer, does it? So you've always got this like field called answer. That's quite cool, actually. So then you've got repeat until. So this is where you're creating your array, right? But actually, what you did was make a board, and you took the two numbers and you pushed them together. So you've got like 1, 7. The thing with that is, what happens if you go over 10? Because you're going to have like, what if you go like 11, 11, and then you've got 1, 1, 1? How do you know which where to split that number up if you don't like that? Anyway, yeah, right. So you can see what I've done is I've made this object here called a grid, and the grid contains the data, and then you can, when you make one, it sets this, and then if you call this on that object, you get it. Now what that means is, if I say, well, I'm going to make custom grid 1, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but if I say I'm going to custom grid 1, and I make custom grid 2, and that one is going to be 2 length and like 7 height, then I've now made 2 different grids. And if I go custom grid 1 dot get, no, I've made it. Oh no, it's not public. Sorry, you have to put this thing on here called public, and that means that you can access those things from outside of it. So now I can do get grid data for colon custom grid 1. What are you saying? Oh, I only wanted to do 9 by 9 anyway, but technically you could type in 11, 11, right? So, I mean, I'm just saying it's a bug, and that's not something you would have to deal with if you're. What a raven. So look, grid here. I'm kind of trying to show you in terms of. Okay, so let's do an array example first before I get too ahead. So let's make an array. Actually, I want to make an array example. We'll just play around with arrays in the main line. So in the main class, if I say, like you were saying, you can make a thing that's called like Glen age equals 30. How old am I? Am I 33 or am I 34? I'm 34, aren't I? Right, and then in hit age, oh, this is where it's embarrassing because I don't know how old my brother is. Wait a minute. Wait. 22. 22. Yeah? 22? Anyway, so like now I've made a value that's called Glen age and a value that's called pip age, and you can do stuff with those values. Like you can go, oh, I'm going to increment pip age by 1. So now you're, hang on. 24? How are you 24? Does that mean I'm older? No. I thought you. Okay, whatever. You're 24. Wait. Hang on. So you're 23, but actually I got it wrong. So pip age plus that basically makes pip age go up by 1. So now if I go sys out pip age, then I run it, it's going to go, oh look, 24. I've printed 24 out. If I was to say, let's say I copy that a bunch of times and then run it, it's going to go 24, 25, 26, 27 because it's going print pip age, add 1, print pip age, add 1, print pip age. So there you go. So there's all that printed. But obviously those are static values. But what I mean by that is not static values. I mean they are one value to one name. So I've got this name, I've called it pip age, and then I can set it to something, but it stays as one thing. An array is if I said, well, I want to reference it with the same name. So let's say, for instance, I've got a bunch of, oh god, I can't even think. Like, why would you? So I've got a bunch of stuff that I want to store all in one array, and there's loads of practical examples, but I'm trying to think of a silly example. So if I've got a list of numbers for whatever reason, it could be lottery numbers, but then you know there's only 6 lottery numbers, so you might as well not bother to. Well, no, actually, let's say it's lottery numbers, right? So you pick 6 lottery numbers. So you go, okay, you pick 6 lottery numbers. There you go. So I'm going to make this be a new int array of size 6. So now lottery numbers has got 6 values in it, and if I go and print out each lottery number value. Which is, let's just do a little loop. So for lottery numbers, well, let's not do a loop for now actually, because that's just so. If I output lottery numbers, I can now go, what's my first lottery number, which is referenced by 0 because 0 index, up to my 6th lottery number. So lottery number 1, lottery number 2, lottery number 3, 4, lottery number 6. So there we go, 6 lottery numbers, and if I print them all out, they're all going to be 0 because I've made this thing. But let's say I want to pick. Let's say I want to set my first lottery number to a value. So I'm going to say lottery number 0 is 4. And I'm going to say lottery number 2 or lottery number 1 is 19, but 1 is the second one in my list. And now if I print that, I'm going to get 0. Wait, why have I got 0? Oh, because I printed out 0 before I set it. So actually, there's a good example there of a bug. I expected it to say 4, but it didn't because I was printing out before I changed it to 4. Okay, so now it says 4, 19, 0, 0, 0, 0, because I haven't set the others. So that's how an array works. You can give something one name, but then you can have lots of values in there. And this number that you put in here, that number 6, that doesn't have to be typed in as an actual number. You can take other values and set that. For instance, the user says, I want it to be 7 high and 4 wide, as per my grid object, which is saying set me to 7, set me to 4, or whatever. And then this is creating an array of that size by multiplying those two numbers together. Okay, so if I show you that, we've made this thing called a grid. So we're going to make a grid in our main line, and that grid is going to be called G1. And the way we do it is we just go new grid. We do a new grid, and we know that when we make a new grid, we have to tell it a width and we have to tell it a height. So let's tell it 5 for the width, and let's tell it 7 for height. And now there should be a grid that exists that has 35 spaces in it. And if I go grid.get grid data, and I print that out to my console, then I'm going to get a big long. Oh no, I'm not actually. There's a reason for that. That is actually just printing a reference up to an array. What I'd actually have to do is loop through each value and print them. And close your eyes, because I'm going to do that. But I'm getting too ahead of myself. So actually, I could do it fairly easily, but I just want to explain stream too hard. Right, arrays. Like I say, please don't understand this part in a minute, but arrays.asStream, arrays.stream, come on, where are we? Arrays.stream, g1.getGridData.free. So this is just how I say, here it says for each grid sysout grid. So now that's going to go through each item in my grid and it's going to print them all out. So there you go. So there should be 35 zeros there. There isn't though, is there? And there might be. It's just because of, well, we don't know. I think probably, right. So we've got all of our numbers, but they're all set to 0. And actually, we know that we want it to sort of turn into a square. So the width value is kind of then when you then move down to another row. So you might want to go print 5 zeros, down to another row, print 5 zeros. Yes, I know that you drew a picture in Switch, Scratch. When you drew that picture, we can do that. We can get to that. But the point is that setting up the data structure is basically some code, like a few lines of code, and then you can once you've got your picture drawing stuff in place, then it's in place, and you don't have to mess around with it, and then you can start doing more advanced stuff. And you can attach a mouse listener to it, you can attach a key listener to it, so that stuff we'll get to. But I mean, actually, does that look like there's 35 zeros? I think there could be, but it's pretty tough to know that, isn't it? Why don't we do this? If I make a value here that's called line number, and I make it 1, and then in here, if I print out my grid number, but I append it to my line number, so I go line number, come on, and it won't let me do this actually, thinking about it. Put that in the wrong place. I don't know why you're, like, honestly, you're dragging blocks of, oh, sorry. This stuff you do not need to understand right now. This is like just me taking a shortcut to try and demonstrate something. Why is that not working? That's so frustrating. Oh no, that does make perfect sense, sorry. I need an end of line. And then on the end of that line, if I then go line number plus plus, basically what I'm doing here is I'm adding a line number to each output. Well, I can't make it final because then it won't change, doesn't make sense. Yeah, I knew that would happen. I mean, I did know that would happen. Sorry, I'm like... Really? Really? Do you need me to go back to arrays? The point is, what you did for your grid with your numbering was like, I'll take the first character. Oh, and if it's got W at the end of the first character, and that is such an arduous way of doing a thing that exists in coding already. You basically invented the concept of an array with values in, but you've done it in like a horrible way. Now, when I was doing like Visual Basic stuff years ago, I did exactly the same thing, like invented an array. I didn't need to because the concept exists and it's there for you to use, but you just didn't know it and you was using the picture dragging thing. And like, anyway, so the grid that we've set up, it should have 5x7. We can check that, actually, we can check its size, and this might make a bit more sense. If I do grid, that grid data, remember I made that get grid data, that's in here, so get grid data returns get the grid data from here, and that grid data is an array of width times height, so it should be an array of 35 things if I'm doing my math right. So if I do this, you can actually now I've got that array, you can ask some questions of an array. So you can say, what's your length? So get data dot grid data dot length tells me how long an array is. So if I just print out that 35, okay. My point I was trying to make earlier is that I can make more than one grid. I know when we don't want to, the whole point is you want to make one grid, but a grid object can be repeatedly created. So let's do an 8x2 grid. So that 8x2 grid is size. Oh, can you see why that's wrong? Can you see why that's wrong? Because it's printing out 35 twice. Can you see why it's doing that? Okay, well, you're not answering. But the reason why it's doing that is because this says G1. So I'm asking grid 1 to get the grid data and then asking for its length. So I've just done that twice. If I ask grid 2 to get its grid data, then it should print out 16. That's because I've made two grids, and those two grids are completely separate things now. They've got their own grid data in them, and they both followed this process of creating a grid based on the width times the height, so they've got their own one. So these things are like, this is what an object is. Yeah, there's a delay, sorry, I know that. I'm an idiot. Okay, anyway, so now I've got a grid of 35 things, and where do we start? Do we start with putting them onto a grid on the screen? Do we start with seeing if we can move a little guy about inside it and just having a explain what you mean by that. Can you search for a specific array entry by searching for a limited part of it? So are you talking about when you say, well, my dude is actually on, well, my dot is on square 10, so check around it and tell me if, for instance, there's a blocking part of it above or below or something like that. Is that what you're talking about? So if I said that I want to move a guy around inside an array, okay, let me just quickly. So in width, I'm going to store the width inside this class now because I wasn't doing that before. It was just getting chucked away. But I'm going to store it inside this class, and that means I can reference how wide my grid is. So when I create a grid, the width comes in from the person that created it, which is this. But then the grid object itself stores it, which means I can use it later. And so the biggest problem I have in Scratch is that if I mark, say, place 34 as 34S, I can only see 34S. Is specifically search for it, as 34 doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, exactly. And that's going to be an issue, and that is not going to be a problem with this because what's inside our array is different to the way that you reference it. So in your case, 34 is like line, however way you do it, it's line 3, column 4, row 3, column 4, and then you'd have an S in there, but we're going to reference it by number. So what is S for you? Is that the dot, or is that like a square, or is that the block square? So it's blocking. So we're going to say that 0 is empty, and we can say 1 is that there's something in the square. So it means like, basically S means that you can't go into it. Yeah, okay. So if we can't, because we're making an any size array, it's sort of difficult to say, well, we're going to place in some points. Actually, but we can go like, well, let's say we put in, okay, just for quick sake, we say that the top left is where we are, and we can track that outside of the array, so we don't actually need to put where the spot is in the array if we don't want to, but we can. So we've made a grid as 5, 7, and then we're going to say spot location. So the spot's location within the grid is 0, because that's going to be the top left of the grid. Okay, and then we want to go, is there anything around the spot's location? So we can make something here that just says like check surroundings. Let's just go check surroundings. It doesn't really matter what we call it. Let's just do that, check surrounding. So this is a method that we can call now that's called check surrounding. It's going to do some work, and we can just call it whenever we want. And we want to check the surroundings of a grid and a location. So it's going to take a grid, and it's going to take int, which is the current location, is the location to check around. So we can call these things whatever we want, but basically it's going to be called a grid and a location to check. And for now, let's say it's going to return a true or false. So well, no, we don't really want to do that, do we? Yeah, let's just do that for now. So it's going to say whether there is or isn't a block in the surroundings. And why are you complaining? Oh, because now, yeah. So it's going to just return true, your surroundings are clear. Are they clear? Are they not? I don't know. I've just got some, just got a image sent to me, so hang on a sec. What is that? Stop it. Right. It's going to let me pop this on here. This has just come from my brother. So this is basically saying if you click an arrow to go in a certain direction, then see if you can or not, based on whether the thing next to you is there. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go. I'm in square 32. Check your list to see if there's something in your list called 33S, because I'm trying to move one along. And if there's something in the list called 33S, then I can't move along because that's telling me to stop. So that's how you've done it. Yeah? And basically you're going to have to go, well, I've stored like widths and heights and whatever, and it'll be funny. So if you're trying to move up, you've got a whole different method, because moving up means you've got to take away the height from your number and then add an S onto the end. And if you're moving down, you've got to add the height to your number. So you're basically doing a different check for each type, for each direction. So yeah, okay. So the way that you do that pretty much is, let's just say we're going to have move up, move down. So you've got move up, and move up. The thing is, the way I've modelled this isn't great for what I'm trying to do, but actually it's probably easier just to say move and just don't return anything, so we don't need to return anything, it doesn't matter what happened. And we say move, and then we take an int number, so how much to move to where, or how much we're moving by. So this is like how much. So move by some amount. And then we go, okay, well, actually we need a grid here to check as well. So we've got our grid data and how much we're trying to move by. Oh, fuck's sake. We also need to know where we are. Okay, so where are we? Oh, fuck. That doesn't make sense either. Okay. What about this? So we do a check for blocks, so Boolean. So we're saying yes or no is blocked. So simple. This is a simple thing of is blocked in cell and an array of grid location, the grid data. So in our grid data, is this thing blocked? And we need to return something. So we're just going to say, right now we're going to say no, it's not blocked as default. It's not blocked. Okay. Now, the first thing we need to do is if you're trying to move, if you're checking a cell that doesn't exist, then the answer is yes, it's blocked. Okay, so we do that by saying if our cell that we're checking is less than 0, or where's the OR key? I've lost the OR key. I've got an American keyboard and I keep forgetting where stuff is on the American keyboard. Where's the pipe? Where's the pipe? Someone tell me where the pipe is. Pipe, I need a pipe. Pipe. Can you just post a pipe in the chat so I can copy and paste it out? You know the straight up liney thing? Oh, where the hell is the pipe? Pipe! Someone give me a pipe! By the way, the reason I have an American keyboard is because it's got pretty lights on it, and I wanted to have pretty lights on it. And it's pretty much the bane of my existence now. There it is. Wait, what? Hash. Is it on the hash key? So the pound sign's there. Like what it is I've got it set up as a UK keyboard setting. No, that's // something, whatever. The pipe is just, it goes, it's like a straight up, and it's normally where the tilde is, I thought. But it's just like that straight up line. Oh, that is the straight up line, isn't it? Let me see. Where's the chat? Where's the chat? Yeah, I think that is it. I want that one there. Thank you. Right. So we're saying if cell is less than 0, then it's not in the grid anymore. Obviously, and if the cell is greater than the grid data's length. So if it's bigger than the length, or if it's smaller than 0, then it's blocked, because you can't move off the grid, so it's blocked, right? So yes, it's blocked. So we're basically going return true, it's blocked. Okay, so that's the first stage. If that's not true, it won't do that, so it won't go into that code, it won't return anything. So the next thing it will do is, well, now we need to say if the grid data value of cell equals 1, so if the grid data of cell is 1, then it's also blocked, because 1 means there's something in it. And that's what we're saying. 1 means that there's a square in it, so we turn true. So now we can check if something is blocked. So then we can then use that. So a spot is in location 0, and we want to move the spot anywhere. So where we want to move the spot? Let's say we want to move it up. So we go, okay, move the spot up. How do we move it up? Well, we have to move it by 5 negatively. So we'd have to say, we'd have to go is blocked. I know it's 0, so we know it's going to be blocked. But I have to say is blocked for the spot location -5, and then give it a grid. So grid dot. No, it's G1. Sorry. So our grid's called G1. Grid dot get data. So that's our array, and that's our block thing, right? So we're saying is it blocked? So if that cell is blocked, what's wrong with that? Anyone know what's wrong with that? I can't make a static reference to a non-static method. Of course I can't. Don't worry about that either. That's just nonsense, but that's something you'll learn in time. So now I can go, is the square above me blocked? And all I'll do, actually, I won't check. I'll just print those values out. So sysout is blocked, spot -5. Okay. So when I run this, it's just going to say, true, it's blocked. You can't go up. And if I do some different stuff, if I go, okay, well, let's move left. So that's -1. Let's try and move right. That's +1. And let's try and move down. That's +5. Now we know those things because we're saying our grid's 5 long. So let's run it. So can we move up? Yes. No, sorry. Is up blocked? Yes. Okay. So we've said is it blocked? That's probably not that useful for us. We probably want to know can move. Sorry, go on now. So I see you put a comment. I don't know what happened to my bloody comments. I had them up on the screen. Surely changed it, but -5 only works for a grid of that specific size. Yes, that is absolutely right. It only works for a grid of that specific size, and you obviously have stored your width value, and that is why in the grid I stored the width in here. Because what I can do is I can say, hey, grid, I'll give you the ability to tell the user of the grid how wide you are. I mean, we know because we passed it in, but what we can do is we can say return a number, an int, and it's going to be called get width. So I'm trying to get it to guess and it doesn't guess. So get width, and then we're going to return this grid's width. Okay. So I've returned the grid's width. Now the 5s I can just change with g1.getWidth. So g1.getWidth. So there we go. So now if I run it, it's going to be exactly the same. It's going to say yes, up is blocked, yes, left is blocked, no, right isn't blocked, and no, down isn't blocked. So there we go. That's those 3 things. If you want to do diagonals as well, there's pretty much, well, you know how to do that. You just do the number, you do. What? Surely changing it by -5, yeah. I can see them on your screen. See what? Oh, right, yeah. The chat box is overlaid in my streaming software to come up on the bottom of the screen, but I can't see that on my screen. I can only see my IDE. So yeah, you'll see in your chat, but I can't see it. I have to go to the other window and find YouTube and look at the chat in there to see what you're saying. But anyway, is blocked is kind of the reverse of what we want to do. Okay, we kind of want to say, can you move there? So let's just reverse that logic, and we'll call this method can move. So can we move into that cell? And so this is no, you can't move into that cell, and this is no, you can't move into that cell, and this is, well, we've checked all the reasons why you might not be able to move into that cell. So definitely the only thing left is yes, you can. And I've changed that to can move, so I need to change these to can move as well. But the point with this is that you can probably do this in some way in Switch as well. Is you can define a method that you can repeatedly call that takes in some values and then gives you a result, and that lets you go. So there you go. So I can't move up, I can't move left, I can move down, I can move right. If I change where my current location is to number 7, then I press go, that's going to say, yeah, you can go anywhere, because I can go right, because number 7 is like, where is that? That's like 2 along on the 2nd row, yeah? So now I can move anywhere. Okay, if I go to number 8, I can move anywhere. If I go to number 34, if I go to number 34, that's the final one. Yeah, okay. If the cell is greater than grid length. So there's an error here, and this is because we have tried to check 35, and that should have caught it. But basically what I was saying before is 0 is the first number, and 34 is the last one. So 35 is off of our grid. I've checked if the cell is greater than the length, but the length is 35. So it's saying 35 is not greater than 35, so that's okay. So then when I come to this bit of code, it's saying get 35, and I'm getting an error because there isn't 35 things in this. So like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. And that sounds bad, but actually that's really good, because that's telling me that my code is trying to look at 35 in here, and that's not going to work. Whereas I don't know what it would do in Scratch. Like Scratch might be like, no, let's just fuck up. Whereas this is literally saying, this is the problem, and now I know that actually I need to check if my cell is greater than the grid data length -1, because I need to check if it's bigger than 34 in this case. Now if I run it, that'll work, and it'll say, you're in the bottom right corner, yeah, you can move up, yeah, you can move left, but you can't move down because you're right on the bottom, you can't move right. So that there is, can I move? No, yes or no. And that's how you do that. So there's more sophisticated ways of approaching it than this. This is pretty basic, but it's kind of trying to mirror what you probably would have tried to do in Scratch, and what I would try and do if I was totally like blind to objects and stuff. And I hope that you kind of get that. So like the only time that you put those numbers in there is like 5 and 7. Or now you had it so the user type them in when you ran it, and we can do that as well. So we can have it pop up and say, tell me your width and height, and then create it. How does it understand something blocks or not? Because, oh right, so what we said was, this bit here, this part here. So this is checking if it's inside the grid. So check if moving inside the grid. This is just a comment. This is just so that you can explain what something does. It has no effect on the code there. That's what that double slash means. It's just a bit of text you can shove in. And this is check if square is blocked, check if cell is blocked. And what we said was that we would store blocking cells as a number 1. So when we make our grid, it starts off everything 0. And if we go in here, this is all going to be 0. But what we can do is we could just introduce some random ones, or we can decide what ones we want to be blocked from here. So just like once we have like a GUI set up, and we can click on share and say, well, look, I want this to be blocked, or something, then you can start to do that. But obviously, right now we're just with the data in the background. We haven't drawn our stuff on top of it yet. This is just the data, and that's typically how you do something like this in code. You'd want your data as a model that can be played around with, but that doesn't touch any visual stuff. So that all you're doing with the visual stuff is you're taking the data and drawing it on the screen. And you can have, if you try and do it too integrated, you can end up where your graphics are so tied into your code that if you want to make some new graphics, you can't really do it without. But if you have code that literally models everything without any need for visuals, then you can plug different view graphics on top of it and it still works. But anyway, so everything is unblocked. Now let me just quickly do a crude way of displaying the grid. And this isn't necessarily going to make much sense, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have it so that it prints the grid to the console when we ask it to, so that we can see whether stuff is blocked or not. And so what we need to do is we need to go through our array, and every time we hit a point where it's a new line, we need to go down to another line and then carry on printing. So just going to get, what we're going to do, this is a loop, it's called a for loop, and we're going to have an index. I'm going to start that index at 0. So the first thing we're going to look at is the 0th part of an array. So, well, actually, let's do it as a while loop because it's just easier to understand. So this is saying carry on doing this while our index is less than our data. So that's going to say our index is 0, and then do this bit of code continuously until our grid, our length has been reached. And this is correct to say less than length because the length is 35. If we move on to 34, then that's okay. But when it hits 35, then index will be 35 and the length will be 35, so it won't be less than anymore, so it will stop doing it. So this will go from 0 all the way up to 34 and run this bit of code with index changing. And we need to change it, so we need to change it. So index plus plus. So at the end of the code, it's going to add 1 to index. What's wrong with that? Oh, I put a colon instead of semicolon somehow. So it's going to do something, add 1 to index, do something, add 1 to index, and keep doing that until index gets 35, and then it won't do anything anymore because we only have 34 sections. Okay. Now we need to know if we've hit the end of a row, a length. So we're going to have a value here called column, and that's going to start on 0 as well. So to column 0, so we go from column 0 to column width minus 1. Well, actually, let's start column at 1 because it's just easier to understand that. So column 1 to column width. And when we hit width, we want to add in a new line. So we're going to go print our grid data value, that's the current index. So whichever index we're looking at, so we're going to start with 0, get to 35, so it's going to do it for 1, it's going to do it for 2, it's going to do it for 3, and it's going to print it out. And so that will just go, and actually, sorry, I've put a L in there. So print it. And if I just basically run that now, and I can do it. So my grid, if I go to my grid and I say print, then I'm going to get a big line of 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 here, and that's on my whole grid. But I want it to go on a new line, so I'm going to go and add one to the column each time, and then if my column equals my width, I'm going to set my column back to 0, no, back to 1. Oh no, sorry, if my column is now greater than my width, because if I've gone beyond my width, and I go back to a new line, so set my width back to 1, and I'm going to print out a new line character. So sys out println nothing, but that is going to print nothing, but also go down to a new line at the same time. So at the end of my, now if I run it now, there we go, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros, and then 5 zeros, so that's like my grid now. And then at the end of that, I've got true, false, true, false. That's where I can move here. Now me, like my spot, isn't in the grid. I haven't actually put it in there. I've just said, well, I'm going to track my position outside of it. You can put it in there as well, if we want to, from outside, or we can get to that later. But the point is now, all of my grids are 0, 0, 0, 0. If I want to put some blocking squares in, then let's just say for now, I want to put a blocking square into that one there. Well, no, let's put it here. So if I'm in the top left, I can't move right. So basically, index number 1 needs to be set to 1. So when I make my grid, I make it, set it, and then I go grid, I get my data, and then I get index 1, and I say it equals 1. So that has changed. All I've done there is I've changed the value in that column to 1. If I print it out now, you'll see it says 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. So that grid there, I've blocked it off by setting it to 1. And you can also see, oh no, because I've changed my location. If I change my location to 0, it's going to say, can you move left? No. Can you move up? No. Can you move right? No, because there's a block there now. We've put a block in. Can you move down? Yeah. So that block is right in there. Oh, cool. So, sorry, the comment, there's a link on the YouTube, so you can see that Scratch project as well. Oh, hang on. So, if I follow that again, where is that? I linked the project file in the YouTube chat. Where did you link that? I can't see that. If you just like put the link in Steam, I can load it up on screen and run it in the video just for context. Anyway, you can see what I've done there is I've gone well. So at the minute I've got spot. What's that? Oh, there it is. Is that it? Oh. So how can you run that? Hang on. So can I run that? Do you have to click on like, just click on that? You have to download. So you have to have Scratch installed. It doesn't run from like a web thing. Oh, so you can run Scratch online, but you still have to load the project up from local source, do you? Okay. So if I go, hang on, file, load from your computer. Where the hell is it? Yeah, let's, it might work. We'll try it. Hang on. So show all. Is it? So it's looking. This online is not looking. So when I do load from my computer, it can't see that. It can't. Even though I'm looking. Oh no, it's probably not looking in my folder actually. Hang on. Is this it? No. Yeah, it doesn't work. I click on the project file, click open, and then it does nothing. Like literally does nothing. Um, no, it does end in SP3. It does end in SP3 because it can see. It can. Yeah, it does. It can see it, and when you go to a load, because it's looking specifically for like SP, SP2, SP3, and when you load it and you click OK SP3, cool, open it, it just goes like just nothing happens. It's just nothing is happening. I don't know why. Um, I mean, I think you haven't sent it wrong. Like, I can see what you've sent me. And an SP3 is basically a zip file because um, the well, it's quite funny, really. I mean, it's not funny. Whatever it is, I mean, I did download that file, and then yeah, I don't know. It's really odd. Load from your computer. Scratch 1.sp3 open. Oh, there we go. It loaded it that time. Don't know why. You know, you shouldn't extract it though. So here it is. And what do I do? What do you do? Um, I just love the way that it's just like, you know, totally, this is code. So what is this? Is this your main? Define refresh. Press space. Oh, right, and then over here it says number of columns 5, number of rows 7, and then you go like, oh look, this is my. What's that doing? So this is how it's basically said. I've created an array. Why is it saying import export? So you've got your press Q. Cool. So now it's drawing the grid. I mean, I don't know how you've done this, like, honestly. What the fuck? But basically, click on backdrops. What? Bottom left corner. Bottom right. God, look. I mean, how have you even done this? Honestly. But so it's drawn this. It's drawn this thing. Press A and S and then Q. So what did that do? That just put the blocking things in. And if you use the keys, you can move. And I can see it's putting H in, like, that's where, like, the H is like where the spot is. Press F. So the F is doing that thing where it's like, is there how come it just randomly disappears? So the F is checking, but you've only done it on the diagonals. But like, you could hide sort of, you could have unblockable spaces, but you could have that like, oh, do a search, and it could show up like, oh look, you found a ghost. Oh, it's a ghost. Like, oh right, that's just the thing. Yeah, okay. So, oh, if you use the mouse wheel, it moves up and down. So we want to have it so that you can move the thing, and it doesn't move if you're trying to move. You're not using YouTube now. You need to use YouTube. That's just crazy. That's absolutely crazy. But see that thing here, that's essentially an object, right? Can you create multiples of these? So x to minus 200 plus 25. Oh god. Oh god. What the absolute fuck is this shit? Unbelievable. But yeah, so we can take out those prints to check stuff now. But we literally want to move up and down inside a grid. So let's say that we put a person on the grid object. So that person being in here is a little bit pointless because it's like it's not doing anything here. Like we can't move it, we can't put it on. So we want the grid to do this. So let's just move that out of here and let's put it in here. So this is going to have a person, a spot location. I don't want to call it a person. So the spot location is going to start at 0. And this method I've made here, that's useless in here now. So let's put it in here. Okay, so this is going to check your spot location. But that is basically saying, can you move into the cell or not? Can move into the cell. And we don't need to give it grid data as a parameter because we're inside grid, and grid owns grid data. So so it's just going to recognize, oh, grid data, you must be talking about my grid data thing. So that's cool now because it makes it less confusing. I'll just say, can I move into this square? And the method comes back and says, yes, no, yes, no. And no one really needs to call that now except for grid. So we're going to make it private. That just means that outside of grid I can't see it. And it's not like, it doesn't really matter. But sometimes you don't want other things to change your shit. And if a method could change it, you don't want other things doing it. So it's private, nothing can see it, only a grid. So now what we want is we want to be able to say, move the person up and down. And so we know that we're saying the person is on 0. Now we could put the person in the grid. Should we put the person in the grid? So like say person is like not person, spot. Let's say the spot is number 2. Okay, and it's going to be in the grid. So spot location is 0, so it's just going to go on startup. grid data grid data spot location equals 2. So now our spot is number 2. When I run it, you're going to see spot is up here in the corner. There's a blocking wall there, and then it's like, oh, all zeros because nothing else in our grid. And we want to be able to move a person around. So let's make the ability to move a person down to start with. So on the grid, we'll be able to say move spot down. Move spot down. And it's not going to do anything, it's just going to say move spot down. And how do we do that? So how do we move spot down? First, we need to say, let's check the spot can move down. And how do we do that? Well, we call can move. So we need to work out what cell. So spot is in spot location. And it wants to move down, so it needs to add width. And I'm sure that you've gone through this whole thing yourself. So I'm going to say, can I move to there? Because I want to know. And so I say, if I can move to there, then I need to move to there. So how do I move? Well, what I do is I say, grid data spot location now becomes a 0 because it's now empty. I've moved from that square to somewhere else, so that's empty. And then grid data spot location plus width becomes 2. So that's it. I've moved down. I've said, can I move down? Yes, I can. Do it. That's it. Now you could actually you could actually change this method a little bit. I've got move down, and it's this thing. But if I was to say, well, okay, let's make a move up. So move spot up. I wouldn't have to change anything here apart from the fact that that was a minus and that was a minus, right? If that makes sense, because I'm basically saying, can I move up? Yes, then do it. That's the same as saying, can I move down? Yes, do it. So these two methods, they're pretty much doing exactly the same thing here. And that is where code reuse comes in. I do not really want to be repeating, because I'm going to have to do a left and a down. What if I want diagonals? So I don't want to repeat it keep repeating it like that. So move down is fine as a method and move up is fine as a method, but it's this code here that I don't want to have to repeat all the time. So I'm going to make a private method that no one else can call that's called move. And it's going to take the place to move to. So I'm going to call it where to. So where I'm moving to. And then I put the code from my move up or move downs in here, but instead of doing this move minus width plus width or whatever, I'll just say where to. So I'm saying, can you move where to? Yeah. Okay, well then empty out the current location and set your place to where to. And by doing that, I can now move my person to any square I like by giving it that number. So then, in my move up, I can just say move to my what's it called? Spot location. Moving up, so spot location minus width. So that's going to move to that place if it can. And the same for down, that's going to be spot location plus width. And as you already know, if I want to move left, move spot left, then I can go move -1. And if I want to move right, and you know exactly what I'm going to do here, well, at least I hope you know what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go +1. So now these move methods, which is what they're called, these things are called functions or methods, they will adjust my values inside my grid. Okay, so void. So when you call a method, it can return something. So like in this case here, I'm saying get grid data. and it's saying, well, when you call that, you're getting an array of integers. So when you say get grid data, you can like assign. It's like when I said, well, okay, when you can do something like int Gwen's age equals 30. I think I'm 34. I keep saying that. You could also do int array grid data equals g1 dot get grid data, and because get grid data returns an int array, I can grab it and assign a value to it, which I can then use. And also for this here, this returns a boolean, which is a true or a false. And if you make a method that returns a true or a false, you can then use that later with an if. So this says if I can move. So then it says, can you move? And if it comes back with true, yeah, you can, then it will go in here and do it. But if it can't, it will do nothing. And that's all to do with this. That's a return type. And void means I don't return anything, I just do something. So it's like, if you say move, I'll move, but I don't give you a value back. You're not asking me to give you a value back. You just say and do it. So then this says, can you move? Returns a value which I then use to make a decision about whether I do a move or not. Now, I haven't tested any of this code out, but let's just go. So now in here, in the main, we've made a grid. We've set a wall, and then we've printed the grid. But we should be able to now say move right. So let's say move right, and then print the grid again. And actually, before we do that, let's just print an empty line, because otherwise we're not going to be able to see it without the difference. Okay, so I print it, I move, and then I print it. So there's my first grid, and then a second grid. Now I've said move right, and I can't move right, can I? Because I'm like literally stuck against the wall, so it hasn't done it. But let's say I go, okay, grid, G1 dot move down, move spot down, and then move spot. So now I'm saying move spot down, move spot right, and then print the grid out again. So now, oh, hang on, that doesn't work. So there's clear that. So I've tried to move down and then move right. That would have been right, but it hasn't done it. So that probably means there's a bug in my code. So let's have a look at move spot right's code and see if you can tell me why that's wrong. I know there's a delay, so open declaration. So here we go. So that's move spot right. Why is that wrong? To be honest, I don't know why it's wrong. Move down, move right. Right is +1, yeah. Spot +1. If I can move, then move. Where am I moving to? Can I move? You are asking what ++ does. I haven't put ++ somewhere, have I? No. So that's a funny one about what you're asking about incrementing / adding. So spot location +1, that doesn't actually change the value of spot location. It just passes in a number that's one higher than it, if that makes sense. Like spot location is 0, and actually spot location goes up by 5. And so this one works. So I said spot location +5, and it said, okay, move the spot up. Can I move it? Yeah, you can. Okay, that's cool. So I'm gonna move it. Do you understand why this moves it? Like basically it's saying, oh, I know why. I know why. I worked it out. I worked out what the bug is. So the reason why it's not working is because I haven't done the move properly. what I haven't done is I haven't set a new spot location. So basically what's happened is we've moved the number 2 in the grid down, because that's what we've done here. We've said spot location equals 0, and then where 2 equals 2. But spot location is still in that top left because we haven't moved it. We've moved the 2 down, so the number 2 it's number 2 in the grid, but we haven't actually moved where the grid thinks it is. We actually have to do spot location now equals where 2. So we're changing it because we're saying move. What we've done is we said, okay, move down. Move down said move to 5. Move to 5 said, can I move to 5? And that said, yes, you can. So this went, okay, I can move to 5. So set the grid data's spot location to 0 and set 5 to 2, which is what we can see here. Number 5 is set to 2. But spot location itself, the value that we're tracking up here, is still 0 because we haven't changed it. So now, if I run it, there we go. So 2 has gone down. Let's move left. So if I go like move down, move right, move down, move right. And now I could print out each intermediary stage if I wanted to, but basically if I do that, okay, so I've moved down, I move right, I've moved down, I've moved down, move right. So now I'm moving my guy around. And yeah, that's not attached to a keyboard, but you can basically, you can see that if I was to then say, I mean, you have an event that's like when the down key is pressed, I guess. You can do that as well. So we could just say when the down key is pressed, G1.move spot down, and then it would move it down. So then you can start moving around. That's going to be like, we're going to have to set up some graphic stuff to start doing that. We can, I think basically, you can go canvas equals new canvas. Oh, we haven't given it a name. Canvas draw area, and then we go draw area dot show. Oh, that's deprecated. That didn't work. I mean, we're going to have to set up a program basically to like a window. So you can go like this. You can go JFrame frame equals new JFrame, and then you can go frame dot set visible true. And actually, so this what I'm doing now. This is an object that already exists inside Java. It's like we've just made a grid, but that JFrame is something that's already there for you. And you can go frame dot set title to grid drawing, and then set it to visible. And then when we run it, come on, we should get a window now. We should get a window, but we didn't, did we? No, we didn't. Why didn't we get that? Hang on, I think we might have, but you might. Yeah, we did. Sorry. We got it, but it's on my other monitor, so try it. Okay, so look, so then we can start. So we can start to sort of try and do our drawing stuff now. Right, so grid drawing is this, so basically you can start making a program that looks like a Windows program now, because I've done. Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to find the bloody YouTube comments again. Where are you, YouTube comments? But I know you probably say Come on, this is a great video. People are gonna love this video. It's gonna be like top. How do I have 44 subscribers? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know why people are subscribing to me. What the fuck? Like, anyway, right. So see what I've done is I've gone make a frame, set the title, make it visible. Here we go. You can set the size as well. So you can go frame. And this is in pixels, so you can go like set size to be. You can set. I want to set my size to 400 by 400, and then I want to say frame dot set resizable to false, so you can't change the size of it for whatever reason you might want to do that. But basically, that, like I said, this already exists as a thing in Java. So now I run my program, my frame appears, here it is. So then you can start putting stuff on the frame like buttons. So you could have buttons or whatever. But just to show you quickly, because you, well, actually, why don't we just try and add a So I've added a key listener, and say key types and key pressed are sort of basically that's saying that is now saying whenever a key is typed, we'll know about it. Whenever a key is released or pressed, we'll know about it on that frame. And just to show you that, if I do a system out, I'll print out the event dot get key code. So that's going to show you what's been pressed. So let me run it again, and so I start typing. I'm pressing keys, and you can see here. Look, if I type, you can see that the events are being registered, and I'm printing them out. So pip is see that? So the key listener is working, and then if I was to go, okay, well. Oh, hang on, let me run it quickly. We want the up key, the down key, the left key. Yeah, those aren't printed out. So there is a way to sort of to do this a bit better. But if I say get key code, then that's going to print out a number referring to the key that I'm pressing. And then so if I press up, if I press like. It's literally not noticing. Oh, hang on. If I got scroll lock on, that's just not the right thing at all. So there'll be something in here: key extension code, key modifiers, key text. So there's something in this event that lets me find out about what key was pressed. But here, this is saying the key is pressed, and you can do all sorts of stuff with it. And if I go like that, obviously the character printed out oh, it tells you here. So this is integer for an actual key on the keyboard for key typed events. The key code is VK undefined. Oh, right. So basically, you can't use key typed for that because typing is like typing. You want key pressed. So key pressed, if I do get key code, no, not key char, key code, and I go and print that out. Now I'm just doing that because I want to find out what keys related to the buttons I'm pressing. So I've got my grid draw here. Oh, I've lost it. I keep shaking the thing. When you shake in Windows, it like hides stuff. Yeah, I think the difference between typed and pressed is literally so that if you can't type certain things, like you can't type Alt, you can't type the end key or the caps lock because they don't do anything, but they still are pressed. So if you type, it's like letters and numbers and stuff, and that's why it can say the L key was pressed. But if you press the up key or the down key, that doesn't count as typing because you don't produce anything. So key pressed is literally any key. So if I press Control, I'm pressing Control here. The number 17 is printed out because that's the key code for Control. If I press up 38, down 40, left 37, and right 39, so these are there, up is 38. That's what I want to listen for in my key event. So I just want to go if e.get key code. No, I've done chart again. If the code equals 38, and I know that's sort of easier in your Scratch because you can literally say up key or something. Now you can actually do that here as well, but I just don't know how to do it quite. I think you have to do like key code. And there's a way to do it. So it returns a key code. For key typed events, the key code is VK. Key code is so normally, like, there'd be something called an enum that you could do to check. Basically, right now, I know that 30, there is a way around this, but 38 is up. So if 38 is up, then I just want to say grid dot move spot up. So G1 dot move spot up. That definitely shouldn't be letting me do that. Anyway, so I can then go else if, which means if that wasn't true, then check a different thing. Check to see if my get key code is, so what was it? So 40, I think, was down. So then I'll do my move spot down. And actually what I'll do on these as well, just so that we can see what's happening, is when I do it, I'm going to print the grid out. So get, because you're not going to be able to, we're not, obviously we aren't creating a grid on screen like right now. We're not drawing our squares. So because we're not drawing our squares, the only way we can see it is if we print the data out to the console. We're not going to have to do that like forever, but obviously for now there's no way of doing it without that. So I think 37 is, I can't remember if 37 is left or right. But anyway, so we're going to have 37 and we're going to have 39. And I think 37 was left. So move spot left and then print it out, and then move spot right and print it out. So now if I run my code, there's nothing on this grid right now, but it can listen for key events. So if I press down, you can see on my screen that it's just printed out on the console. I move down. I'm going to press down again and again. I'm going to start moving. So now I'm moving around. You can see my guide is moving around. I'm going up now. It's like, no, you can't go up, you can't go up, you can't go up, down, up, up, left, 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 left. Oh, it let me go left. So that's the thing. If we try and move off of the edge of a grid to the next line, then we can do that, because all we're doing is saying +1, +1. So if I keep moving along, I can move all the way down, 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 can't move anymore. So we need to fix that problem, because we don't actually want to be able to move from the end of a line to the bottom of a line. Now, I guess that you would have fixed that. Well, actually, no. How did you handle that in your Scratch project? I mean, I can suggest a few ways of doing it, but basically, the moving around is working, but like being able to move, yeah, I can check. You can check. So, how would you check? So when you go, let's just have a look at our code. We are in the can move. Where's they move to that cell? So we can check in here. We can say, are we on the? No. So can move is basically to say, is the cell blocked or not? Just open the Scratch window and look at what I did. Oh right. Yeah, I can't because like I don't understand Scratch. Okay, let me open it up. So where am I looking then? Like if I go, basically, I'm saying, so key press left, I guess. So when A is pressed, is there other key presses here? Where are those? Background. Oh, right. So when the right arrow is pressed, movement checker. What's that? If not, oh god, if not board dot contains that. So what the fuck? I mean, this code is literally what I've done, isn't it? Pretty much. Like that is like that looks exactly like I wrote it, but I can reuse it. Whereas you have to make it like. Oh my god, what does that movement checker thing mean? So that's saying you can't move off. So this is this basically this bit here, isn't it? Like, so that's saying if the board contains that, or what's position C? 1 is greater than position C minus 1. Why don't you just say 0 is greater than position C? Is that literally the number 1? It sets things to things. I don't know how to zoom out. Oh, right there. Zooming out on code so you can scroll around and find the code is like that fucking thing on Jurassic Park, which is like, oh, yeah, this is the new operating system where you have to walk down corridors and like open fucking doors. I mean, ugh. um, top right. There's no. Do you mean left because you can't? How did you do this when you can't get left and right? I mean, I can't get left and right either, but still, that thing there. Oh, is that like an announcement? Define movement checker. Oh, so that's a method. You made methods. That's a method. Oh, that's so cute. Yeah, so that's a define movement checker. Set position C to letter one of position. What the absolute Jesus in fuck is this? This is awful. I mean, it's not awful. It's massively clever that you managed to do that. But come on, like, how do you follow that? So that's basically saying C is your column, and you're saying take the first letter of position, which is your current number in the grid, and set that to your column. So you're basically that movement checker is saying set my current column, my current row, based on my current position. So you're saying take position and split it up into column and row, right? So C is column, R is row. I get that. Okay. So then you're saying if you move left, then is that saying if there's a value inside your array that is if there's a value inside your array, because you know that you're just trying to move column or row, are you then reconstructing C and R back into a position? Because yeah, I get it. So you basically you're splitting it into column and row, and then you're going, oh well, I just need to move a column um, in this situation, or I just need to move a row in this situation. So basically, you're not doing like move 5, move 10. You're going move my tens by See, and that's fine, except that you can't have a grid bigger than 10, bigger than 9, because you zoom have a 10 grid. That's fucked. Okay. But then, because you're doing that, that means that you can say, well, I can't be, I don't know what I've just done with that. But that means that you can actually check, um, to see whether you're moving off an edge, because your edges are defined by your width and your height. But the way that we've done it, the way that I've done it here, means that we essentially have a straight line, and we're artificially inserting. I deleted it. I mean, fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. We can actually have it so that you basically have columns and rows. And I started with an array of one set of numbers because I saw that that's how your board did it. But your board, technically, even though it's got an array of columns and numbers, is actually not from 1 to 34. It's like row 1, column 1, row 2, column. So we could restructure our grid to work like that. Maybe we should do that. So the grid is going, well, right now it's just a grid of God knows how long, like okay, I deleted it. So basically we're making a grid of width times height. But what you can actually do is you can make a grid of rows, and then a row of grid. No, you can make a row grid. You can make a way to reference a cell via the column and the row rather than the number. So this is going to break all of the code. Yeah, so you're right. If we stick with this, what you can do is in the we'd have to do it here. So we're saying move down. We need another check to say, well, does it make sense to move down based on where we are? So what? Because like can move here. This is wrong. This is wrong. This should be is empty, or like it's not necessarily. Do you see what I mean? Like I don't know what to call it, but it's not saying can you move. It's saying is this place, is my destination like available? Does it exist, and can I move into it? Whereas like what we really need to check is, say like for move down, we want to say something like, well, this is my new location. So let's make a little thing here. So this is where I'm trying to move to. So in new location equals that. So basically I'm saying, okay, new location is this. This is where I want to try and move. So when I say move now, I can go move to new location, because that's basically the same as what it used to be. But I've just split it up into 2 stages of saying define it, then pass the definition. But now I've got that new location to work with. I can go, does it make sense for new location, am I trying to move? But actually, to be fair, move down and move up are irrelevant, aren't they? So you're right. You only need to do this in left or right. So fucking forget what I just did. If I'm moving left, I'm taking one away. And I'm moving to another row. Okay. So the way that we do that is with a special thing in maths called a modulus. Is that right? No, not the modulus. Wait. Hang on. Oh, I can't. Okay. Basically, what we do is spot location divided by width is your row. Okay. Now that's technically not quite right. We'll just round it. Okay. So we're gonna make a row number. That's your current row. Because you're going take my location divided by width. If it goes below 0, it becomes 0. So we're indexing by 0. So it's going to be row 0. If you're on square 7 in a 5 by 5 grid, you're going to do 7 divided by 5. You're going to get 1 point something. And round it down, you can get 1. If you're on 14, You divide by 5, you're going to get 2. So you want to go 2, round it down to 2. So that is going to give us a row number. If we divide our location by the width, we're going to get a row number. So that's a current row number. So we're making a current row number, and then we're going to make a new location that we want to move to. Here's where we want to move. We want to move to spot location -1. So new location is spot location -1. So then we want to find a new row number. So current row, but this is going to be the new row. So the new row is the new location divided by width. And then we're basically going to say that if the current location is equal to, so if the current row is equal to the new row, then we can move to the new location. I have a separate counter that is +s or -s by left or right movement, then prohibits it if it's equal to the width. Right, I don't understand that description, sorry. What I've done, okay, is I've worked out a way to work out the row number. Yeah? We can check that, we can literally check that. Basically I'm saying that the row that your spot is on, your row, is, you can work that out because you can go, what's your spot location divided by width, and then round it down. So your spot location divided by width, round it down, is going to be your new location. I just prove it with a spreadsheet quickly. I don't know if I've got a spreadsheet software. OpenOffice. I literally think I don't have anything to make spreadsheets. Hang on. Counter 0 minus width. As you move right, add 1. Yeah, and as you move left, you can take 1 away. And then basically, you know, if that counter goes over it, then oh, what the hell? How's that? Oh. But the thing what you're saying, I get what you're saying, but like, say you wanted to set a starting position, then how would that counter what you're suggesting? So if I go, oh, I want my starting position to be the number 10, which should be legit, I can just say start at number 10, then that messes that counter up because you can't actually work out how many to move left to right you need before you'll go over a column, because you're just basically assuming you're going to start on the top left of if you do that count you're suggesting. But like, let's say I've got, well, oh, pretty much done that totally wrong. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you were to go, okay, well, I am on square 22. This is where I am. No, it doesn't work like that. So I'm on square 29, and I want to move right. So my thing's going to go, okay, 30. But my width is 1, 2, 3. So my width is 5. Okay. So my width is 5, and I'm saying, oh, I want to move 29. So I want to move right. So you're going to try and move to 30. So what we do is we say, what row are we on first? So my calculation for row is basically take your current number. So let's say my current position is here. So current position is F19. And if you divide it by the width, which is 5, then you're going to get a decimal. But if I'm on 29, my row number is 5.8. So 1, 2, so that's 0. So that's going to be 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that row number is 5. I'm on 5.8, but basically my row number is 5. So what I've done is I've said round it. No, sorry, I don't want to round it, I want to floor it. Functions. Maths. Is there no floor? There is a floor. Number significance mode. Crazy. I don't know what fucking mode means. Okay, so I do want a floor. I want a maths dot. I want a floor, and I want my significance to be 1. Really? Why are you saying name? Oh, because right. So now I'm saying floor my number, my row. So I'm on 29, and I want to move to 30. So we're going to move from 29 to 30, but my row number is now 6. If I go 31, it's still 6. If I go 32, it's still 6. If I go 33, it's still 6. 34, it's still 6. 35, it's still 6. No, 35, sorry. 35 is now 7, because 35 is row 7. So what I can say is, my starting number is 29, my starting row is 5. My finishing number is 30, my finishing row is 6. Can I move right and end up on a different row? No, I can't. And if I do that with anything, so let's just pick like 10 to, from 9 to 10. Can I go from 9 to 10? Well, my rows are different. Can I go from 10 to 9? My rows are different. So this is my row number. My row number is different. So I'm trying to move, I'm checking which row I'd end up on, and I'm on a different row, so I can't do it. So this is basically what this is doing. It's saying the current row is, and I've done that wrong, that should be floor. And that's going to return a fucking double because fucking Java is a cunt. Right, so I'm saying floor that. So that's my current row. My new location is spot location -1, and that's my new row. Now, if my new row and my current row are the same, which is say that if my current row and my new row are the same, then I can move. So that's not going to let me. Basically, it's going to stop me from moving unless I'm moving onto the same row. We'll test that in a second. But first, there's a few things that we can do to make this a bit nicer. So what we can actually do is we can say, return me a row number, please. So get row for cell. So this is basically going to say, give me a cell and tell me which row it's on. And we've already written that code as here. So that's going to go return maths.floor spot cell divided by width. So that's saying, well, which row is this cell on? So then I can go current row equals get row for cell spot location, make a new location, and then I can say the new row is get row for cell new location. Okay, so my spot location. So now that's made that a little bit clearer. And now move left and move right. So move right basically needs to mirror what I've just done here. So I am going to be an absolute twat about this, and I'm going to make this be called move adjacent. Am I going to do that? I don't know. No. Okay, let's just call it move within row, and then go in new location. So now my new location already exists because I'm passing it in. And I'm saying, well, you use your current spot location. And then my move right function is going to just be changing to say move within row. So if you move right, you're just going to move only if it's in the same row. And I've deleted my move left, so I need to make that back again. So move left -1. So I've now got, in a convoluted ass way, but look, I can now move down, I can move up, I can move left, I can move right. When I move left and right, I'm moving within a row, otherwise I'm just moving. If I move within a row, I'm basically saying, well, here's my current row, here's my new row. If they're the same, then I can just do my normal move, which is what the others would have done, but that's just an additional check. Say, if I'm trying, am I moving to a new row or not? Well, yes, well then you can't do it, sorry. Then I've done that thing, get row for cell, which basically just says this is the current row that you're on based on the cell number. Okay, now technically what we're hoping for now, let me just do that. What we're hoping for now is if I start to move up and down and left and right, that I can't what am I trying to say here? Sorry, I'm just trying to see whether anyone is actually still here. But so let me do it. So move down. Ooh, what the hell happened there? What was that? That's an old console, I think. I think that I just got. I think I just got an error. Okay, so it's working. So down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Now, if I go, I'm now pressing right constantly, and you can sort of see it sort of refreshing. Let me just, if I move this across, oh no, that's bad. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but like, I just didn't want my windows to be on display. So now I can clear the console. I'll show you. I'll try and move right. I'll clear the console. I'll try and move right. Clear the console. I'll try and move right. It won't let me move right. And I'll go left, 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 left. Can't do it. Go up, down, up, up, up. So I've solved that problem that I was having. I can't move on to ones. And yeah, so now I am free as a bird. Well, no, I'm not. I'm much more restricted because I can't walk off the edges. But that's my code so far. I've got this grid drawing box appearing just so that we can do listeners on it. Okay, so should we leave it there? Should we leave it there? I would like to come back to this and start to try and do some drawing. as well. So let's actually get our grid drawn on the screen and show some things visually. Dot dot dot. Why is there a dot dot dot? What do you mean you don't know what I did? Okay, now I can explain it. I can explain it again. What's nonsense? Don't tell me it's nonsense. Come on. I mean, I don't really need to explain it again. You can watch the video again. No, but so is this? You didn't get the row number stuff. Is this what you didn't understand? Yeah, an int is a number. Int stands for integer. I mean, I'm not being funny, but brackets everywhere. I mean, this has got bright fucking coloured blocks of nonsense that floats around everywhere. I mean, this is not. This is difficult. What you've done here is an achievement just on the count of it basically being a blocker in itself. I am pretty impressed though. Last time I saw Scratch, it didn't have things like, I mean, basically movement checker is like you've done movement checker and that goes and runs. Oh, where's movement checker? I just need to scroll a fucking around to find it. I'll just move something out of the thing. But like movement checker, that's a function. That is a function. It sets some value. That is a function. That is like, oh, I can do movement checker. It's like repeated code. Like can move is repeated code, or get a row for a cell is repeated code. It's like that. But the point here, though, Pip, is I'm not trying to teach you how to write Java right now. Like if I was trying to teach you how to do this yourself, it would be you start from the basics of here's an int, here's how a method structure works, here's a description of. That isn't what I was trying to do. You do understand, like this. Look, you can trust me. If you can make that thing work in Switch, you can do it. You can do it in here, and you can do it in here with much more flexibility. And that's all I was trying to show you is that in like a couple of hours, we can like knock up a thing that sort of is letting you move around this grid. And then you can but it's the freedom of, well, okay, let's just look at the fact that you I don't want a not bigger than 9x9 grid. I mean, if I say I want a 50 by 20 grid, you know, I got a 50 by 20 grid here now. Look, and I can go all the way along to the end of my 50 grid and then up and like, how would you have done that in Scratch? You had to, I mean, you probably could, but imagine, but there's just a wall there. And the thing is, you have thought around that wall in terms of, oh, I'm just going to make a list of numbers, and the left one and the right one. Oh, and if there's something in it, I'm going to attach a string to it. But then I'm going to check if it's in a. I mean, what you did there is you generated in your head something that programmers have just been finding simple for forever because they have these sorts of structures that you didn't even like. The point is, you're not just using a tool that already exists. You've invented the fucking tool to solve your problem, and that is another level of thinking. You're saying, "Oh, I don't get it." You do fucking get it because you had the problem that everyone else had, and you went and solved it yourself instead of just using something that already exists. So you can do it. Yeah. Okay. That's a good. Right. I see what you're saying there. Right. So let us just right. So our main method here is setting shit up. If you so I don't really want to delete this stuff, but I'll just copy it. So I'll move in the main method. Just ignore that. Okay. So this is now a program. You're saying, okay, well, if I define a parameter, what's the difference between doing that and calling them to use in other things? So there, you would have seen the diff. There's like you would have seen me doing an equals and an equal, two equals is, and there's like different things like that. And basically that is like, I wasn't even trying to show you that stuff. So the fact that you've picked it up is pretty good. But like the point is, I can define a variable, and I can say, let's just use some strings as well. So string, like a string is some text. So string name equals AD ramkin, right? So I've made that, and you're saying, well, now it's defined. What's the difference between it? Like what you were doing in actually, that's not a bad thought. What you were doing in Switch I keep calling it Switch. What you're doing in Scratch is you were saying, I've got a list of strings, because you were pretty much just shoving in a bunch of numbers but you didn't care about the value of the number. You just cared about the fact that you had like a 1 and a 2, and that was the row and that was the column. Now you're doing it with this string thing. So here's my list of string. So it's multiple strings, and that was called board, wasn't it? So you got board. So here's my board, and it equals a list of strings. So you don't, like I say, all of this stuff you don't need to worry about because it's sort of quite simple. But basically, there's an object called a list, and Java decides to import the wrong thing. So here's my list, and then that's board, and then you were going like board. You were adding stuff. So board.add. Oh, I was adding 1 1 because that was one grid away. But actually, so start again. So you were saying, oh, user, tell me what your width is. You were saying, user, tell me what your height is. And your height is 6. So you're going to tell me what your width is, tell me what your height is. Have I spelled that wrong or something stupid? Oh no, I haven't put an equals. So tell me what your width is, tell me what height is. Now make a board, and then you're adding onto the board for each thing in your width and for each thing in your height an entry, right? So you were like, okay, for in I, well, I is less than or equal to width I plus plus. Why is that moaning? Oh yeah, so here's one. Again, don't worry about what I'm writing here. So I'm doing 2 loops where I'm going to go around for each value in my height, and then for each value in my width. I'm just going to do a thing. So that's going to do like a loop within a loop. So it's going to go for my first width, for my first height, do 1 1. For my first width, for my second height, do 1 2. So it's pretty much going to be doing what you did. So board.add. So I'm going to add something to my board, and what I'm going to add to my board is a string. Okay, so it's going to be a string, and it's going to be a string of my I plus my J. And actually I need to do it the other way around. So but I'm just sort of cheating here. But if I add in an empty string in the middle of those 2 values, it will add the numbers into part of my string. Yeah, so those here, when I wrote width and height, I named that. That line of text is saying there is now a number called width, and that number called width equals the number 3. So now I can refer to width wherever I want. If I now do sys out board, now what I've just done there is I've just created your board. Now you can see, I'm pretty sure I've now got a 1 1, a 1 2, a 1 3, a 1 4, a 1 5, a 1 6, and I've got a 2 1, a 2 2. So that is I've just created your board that you had. Because I've said if I change my width, I've just said my width is 7, run it. There's your board. That's your board. Okay, and then you would go in, or take the first character from the board, make it into a grid. So let's take the first entry in my list. So board get 0, and then I can say dot like chart at 0, and that's going to take my 1. So what I'm saying here is int int width. So that's column. So this is your C. Well, actually, let's just do chart. So C is that, and R is that. So that's what you did when you said get the first thing out of my entry in board and make it into C and an R. So if I sys out C and then I sys out R, I'm gonna go output my row and my thing. So that's the first entry there, 1 1. If I change it to third entry and run it, then I'm going to get 1 4. So number 4. But so because 3 is the fourth entry, sorry. So it's doing the row and then the column. So that's pretty much what you did with that bit of code there. That is your like set movement, set whatever that function was. But the point that I am making is that you can do what you did. Like that's your board, that's your whatever, but you're just creating it as you're typing it. But yeah, let's go back to that. So I have made a thing called width, and width equals 7. I mean, it doesn't matter if it was working because I wrote it in like half a second. Really? Well, why do you think actually? Why don't you think it's working? What's wrong with it? 1 1 1 2 1 3 1 4 1 5 1 6 2 1 2 2 2 3 2 4 2 5 2 6 3 1 3 3 3 2 3 3 3 4 3 4 4 4 2. What's wrong with it? Why isn't it working? But it doesn't matter because you wouldn't do it like this. Like you just wouldn't do it like this because that's like you just don't need to do it like that. That is a board 6 wide. Oh, you're right. Yeah. So you need it to go up to 7, don't you? Well, actually, why? I wonder why. Let's see. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Why do you think that's not working? 1 2 3 4 5 6. Width 7. Width equals 1. Less than or equal to width. So if it goes from 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. 1. Well, it's less than or equal to width. If it's equal to width, it's 7. If it's 7, then it should be putting it on there. Why the hell isn't it putting it on there? That doesn't make sense. Oh, hang on a minute. It is doing it. It's just doing it the other way around. Yeah, INJ. Oh look. Oh look. I don't understand this. Mr. I and J are fucking backwards, you little cunt. Oh look, it works now. Well, it doesn't quite work because it's not putting it in the order that you want it to. So technically, if you want it to go in the order that you want, then you need to have the I and J the right way around, but you just need to make the this one based on height, and this one based on width. And then if I run it, it should go up to 7, and then 6. So it shows 6, 1, 6, 2. There you go. Yeah, okay. But it doesn't matter because, like I said, there's just no, like, you wouldn't do it like that, because the real way to do it, I haven't even shown you that yet, really, because it's just. But look, yeah. So okay, I have now made a thing called width. That's what I've just done now. I've made it called width, and I've said width is 7. Now you can use width as a value. Like, let me show you this. So if I do a method that takes width and does something to it. So like, let's just call it print 1 higher in number, and then I go sys out number plus 1. What's your problem? What's your problem? Doesn't have a return type, because I need to say it doesn't return anything, right? Then I can say width is 7. Why have you got a problem? Oh, I put it in the wrong place. Oops. So I go print 1 higher width, and then I go print out width. So when I run that, what's going to happen? Can you tell me what's going to happen? So you made print 1 higher, and afterwards used it underneath width. So print 1 higher is basically like in Scratch, where you've written movement checker, that define movement checker. You said movement checker is a thing that does this. That's exactly what like print 1 higher is. It's like, that's kind of like saying define print 1 higher. And that bit there is its expectation of what is going to be passed in. So print 1 higher should print 8, and then that there prints out width, which should print out what? No. So if I run it, it's going to print out 8, and it's going to print out 7. So we haven't changed width at all. So this method here, it can take any number, and then it prints out that number plus 1. But that number plus 1 is not going to change that. This little bit here, this says I'm expecting a number as an int, and that is going to be called number. So then within the confines of this method, number is whatever the user passed in, and so that's just going, okay, well, whatever. If I change that to print number, it will print 7 twice. If I change it to print number plus 1, it's going to print 7. It's going to print 8 and then 7. And that's because width is 7. And width here is 7. If I've passed the value width in there, but this doesn't change width at all. It's just now saying I've got this number that's equal to 7, and I want to print it out 1 higher. Yeah, so you can see on here, when I run it, 8 is coming from print 1 higher, and then 7 is coming from print width. So that makes sense, right? So it's going print one higher, which is printing the number you've passed in, add one, and then it's saying. But if I said print one higher 10, I can do that because like it's expecting a number. So whether it's an actual typed in number or whether it's the name of a number, as in a field, like this is a field, whereas this is just a typed in number. Either one of those two things you can pass into it because all it cares about is getting a number. So when I run it now, it's going to say 11, 7 because it's just going to say one higher than that. Whatever it gets in there, it's going to do it one higher. So if I put width in, it's going to go 8, 7. If I go print width plus 1 there, I'm going to leave that there. If I go width plus 1 and then width, what's going to happen there? And I don't actually expect you to know because, like, why would you? Nine seven. 9, 7. Whee! Yeah, you're absolutely right because width plus 1 doesn't change the value of width. It just makes like a new number of 8, and then you're right. So then 8 gets put into print one higher, and print one higher goes, well, I've got an 8, so I need to print a 9. So yeah, this is actually right. But so that was like the if I go in other thing equals width plus 6, and then I go print one higher other thing, and I can get rid of that now. Then that is going to print. Oh no, actually, sorry, I'm not going to get rid of that. Leave that in there. So that is going to say, well, what's it going to do? Yep, okay, 14.7, I think you're right, let's try it. 14.7, yeah. And that, and okay. So let's do this. Now what? 813. Let's try it then. Yeah. Okay. So you kind of get what I'm doing is that equals a single equals sign is an assignment. You're saying width is going to become whatever is after the equals. So width is going to become 13 because I'm saying width plus 6. Whatever's there, like that doesn't have that. You essentially saying, well, currently width is 7, so it's width equals 7 plus 6. If you were to go the other thing, and this is what I was doing before, and this is like a shortcut really, you can go width is width plus 1, and that would basically make width 1 higher. So it would go from 7 to 8. And that is, you can just go, you can just do that plus plus, and that will just make width go up by 1. It's just like an increment, and that's what I did in that while loop that you saw when I put in when I was doing the printout. I did index plus plus and column plus plus, but that just makes column go up by 1 and index go up by 1 in the same way as that's just going to make width go up by 1. So if I print that now, you're going to go, it's going to print width, and then it's going to add 1 to it, then it's going to add another 1 to it, so it's going to end up as 9. And that's what plus plus does. You can actually, there is another shortcut to it as well. So, I mean, actually, I'm not even bother saying that, doesn't matter. How long does width stay modified though? So it doesn't, like, basically when you run code, it's going to go from here and it's going to go through that, and then at the end of it, that's it. Like, it's all gone. So if you run it again, it's going to start from this. When that's like when you run a program, it starts and then it ends. And if you want it to carry on, then that's when the objects and things come into it, where like you go into here and it waits for you. Well, that's hard. I get that. I understand what you're asking for, but like basically, this is my mainline code. When we were making the grids, the grid owns these values, and that's sort of slightly different. So in this here, this is just some code, but when you make an object, it calls this thing, which is not a method, it's called a constructor, and it's like what happens when you create an object. Yeah, so you're saying if you want to use width, you have to redefine it. No, but like this is where objects come into it. If you have a let's say, because this is normally the easiest thing, let's say you have a car. This is a car, and a car has a number of doors. This is a simple thing. Right? So cars are a number of doors, and when you make a new car, so this is not a method. This is a constructor, and the constructor basically looks like a method, but it doesn't have a return type, and it looks the same, and it's got the same name as the class. So this is the constructor for a car, and again, I'm just going to write exactly the same thing in here: number of doors. But that's a parameter for the constructor. So then you go, and this is what I was writing shit all over the place. Like, what the hell are you doing? You're writing shit all over the place. Number of doors. So that's really weird. But what that does is that means that I've made a car, and when I make a car, I pass in this number, and that number becomes the car's number of doors. Now, the reason why you always see like the same thing written everywhere, because that just makes sense. Because you can go like, oh, I'm going to make a car, and like you're going to pass in a number, but that number's called fish, and it's like, oh, okay, but my number of doors is going to be fish, haha. But all that's doing is you create a car, give it a number, and then it says my number of doors equals fish. But that's so you wouldn't do that, so that's why essentially they always have the same name. And then I'm going to make in the car, well, if I want to know how many doors a car's got, I need to be able to ask the door how many cars have you got. So I'm going to say get number of doors. So that's going to return my number of doors. Okay, so I can now make a car, tell it how many doors it's got, and I can ask the car how many number of doors it's got. That's what a car does now. But that's a field. That number of doors, that's like the width or something. Now, in my main method where I don't have anything, I'm just going to say make a car. So there's a car. I'm defining a car now. So like when I was saying int something, I'm saying car, Glenn's car is a new car because that's how you call a constructor, and 5 because my car has 5 doors, and that has now made a car object, and that car object's number of doors is 5. And if I go, well, I want another car, I'm going to call it Pip's car, and Pip's car hasn't got any doors because it failed its MOT, so Pip's car's got 0 doors. So now, like, I've got two of these things, and both of these things have got a number of doors in them. Yeah, so if I say this is, it's like this is a thing. When I create one, it becomes a new self-contained thing, and that thing has all of its stuff in it. So if I say now I want to know how many doors has Glenn's car got, I can say Glenn's car, get a number of doors, and print it out. It's going to print out 5. And if I change that to Pip's car, get a number of doors, that's going to print out 0. But now you can basically say, well, why didn't I just make a number called Glenn's car doors and make it 5, and make a number called Pip's car doors and make it 0? That would have been the same. Like I can just go, oh look, here's an int, whatever. The reason why you might have jumped to that on your own is that because in a car it can have like loads of shit. Yeah, so it can have like engine size. And well, sorry, I've done it in one place. So a car's got a number of doors, but it can also have an engine size. And it can also, and that's a number, so I'll put in. It can also have a color, so let's just do a string. So a string called color. So now a car got an engine size, a number of doors, and a color. And so if I was to expand all that out, and you can just basically cheat, and you can go like source, generate constructor, using fields, yep, and it will just make that for me. So I don't have to, you don't have to do that. Basically, all that method that I wrote, you can just get the ID to make it for you. And if I go source, getters, and setters, and say I want to make a get color, a get engine size, and a get number of doors, makes that code for me again. So now I've got a way to ask a car how many doors it's got. I've got a way to ask a door how big its engine is, and I've got a way to ask a car what its color is. And then, now this is an error now because it's saying, well, you can't make a car and only tell me how many doors you got. You have to tell me your engine size. You have to tell me your engine size, and you have to tell me what color it is. Okay, so oh look, now you told me. And then Pip's car's engine size is 2, and color is shitty. And there you go. So now we've got 2 different cars with 2 different sets of stuff. So if I say, oh, Pip's car dot get color, then I run it. Oh, it's shitty. But if I say Glenn's car, then it's going to say it's red. So you can like say, oh, here's some sort of set of things that I want to know about something, but I might have loads of those things. So you can make that. So that's what basically making that car there does. And it's kind of like it's kind of like, I guess, making a sprite where you can say, well, this sprite has got some parameters against it, and if I want to make like loads of that sprite, I can just copy it and give it some different values like position on the screen or color or something, and it can read those in. Now, where that can become sort of practical inside this grid is that at the minute we're just saying, well, we've got a grid of like 5 by 7, and each grid has got a number in, like a 0. But in theory, you could actually make a cell, and a cell could have like what it's got in it, inside it. But it could also have other stuff like, oh, is it difficult terrain? Is there hidden items? Um, like, what's the temperature in that square? Like, you can do like you could have like different parameters of a cell. So when you go, oh, my spot's moved into that cell. Oh shit, this cell's really cold because it's got a like negative temperature. Fuck, have I found that has my spot got an item on it like a hot water bottle? No. Oh well, then its health's going down. Quick, you better move out of that square to a hot square. Oh, but actually, if you did a search in that square, that cell knows that there's a key there. So you get in there and do a search, and then find the key inside that cell. But you take it. Oh, I've taken the key. Oh, well, you better tell that cell that there's not got a key in it anymore. But that's like the object is a cell, and it can have these properties against it. And and so even though you've got 100 cells, you haven't got to have 100 values for is there an item. You just have one value for is there an item inside a cell object. And then when you make the 100 cells, you can just ask each one what's there, or set each one to be what's there. So that's what the point of object, like the object stuff is. And I know that doesn't really answer what you were saying about how long does it last for, but the point is because that car has got this thing called number of doors and it's sitting inside the car, that's like always there now. That's just stays there. I'd have to redefine it. The point is that when I run the program, it's getting to the end and stopping. Whereas what you'd normally do is you'd call a bunch of methods, and they would lead to other methods, and there'd be blockers for user input, so the program wouldn't end. And the whole time that program's alive, that car is red. Well, I'm not all overestimating it. All I'm saying is that what you're trying to do, I don't know what you're trying to do, but it's just experimentation, isn't it? And if you go, oh, but you don't even need. It doesn't need to be like a. It could be, oh, this is a blocker, but it's a red wall. And what you've done with that is you put like a W at the end of your number. But you could just say this cell's value is I'm a red wall. And but you could also say, oh, well, it could be like a blue wall. But blue walls you can actually walk through, provided you found the blue suit that's hidden in some square somewhere. But you can't. So like yeah, okay, I was just going back down to complexity again, but look, I'm not overestimating complexity. I'm just saying that that's the point of object-oriented stuff, because you can go, okay, take take um take that cell where you've had to go, oh, I need to define it all in these like characters, and then take a bit off the end and add a bit on the end and check and take all of that, and just make one object that does all that for you, because all of that structure is in place. And it's sort of, well, I just find it nicer to work with. But the point is that that's you don't have to do that. You don't have to put a car in every single. You don't have to make 100 cars, but you could. Um, and you could have it, even though my grid is a straight line, and that makes it more complicated. That was only so that the code looked simpler. But like I say, you can actually make grid data be have a column and have a column and a row that you say, oh, tell me column 4, column like row 1, where's my current? You can have a current position be a row and a column, and you can move your row or column up or down, and then redo it. So you could work it like that. And I think I will try and do that actually, because I want to like come back to this. But I was just trying to answer some of your questions that you had about Java in general. But like like I said, I wasn't trying to say I'm going to teach you Java. That would be a totally different approach, and that would have been similar to what we started doing with adding whips and stuff like that, because that's how you get the grips of how numbers and shit work in the programming language. I was just going to say, look, you can do it because, well, because I mean that's the whole point of a programming language. What you're doing in Scratch is trying to get around roadblocks because they haven't implemented parts of what a programming language normally has. A programming language already has that stuff, so you can just use it, and then that roadblock's gone, and then you can do more stuff. Um, but it's like if you're saying, well, you like the challenge of using Scratch, fine, but it's almost like saying, well, why don't you also cut your arms off and then try and use Scratch? I'm not going to cut your arms off, don't worry. Yeah, but like the point is that, well, not the point, but you were saying, okay, how long does it last for? You saw before, like the grid data. Well, if we go back to our grid data, so this is what we had. If we run that, because this grid drawing thing pops up, when you make a frame, what am I trying to say? When you make a frame is like when you set it to visible, you're kind of saying this is my program. And so now, unless I actually close my program, all of the stuff that I've created that's in those cells in that grid is still existing in memory, and it's not checked. I don't have to redefine anything. So like that's why this grid here, if I start to do some moving around, I can do it because my position is saved inside the grid object. So G1, that's still there, and it's still got my number 2 in the place that I had it. So you know that's how I'm moving around it. My number 2 is going over to the right, it's going over. That's the program lifetime is still in effect. It's carrying on. If I kill this thing, then my program will end and all of my values go away. But my program is still running right now because of the grid is open. I've done that again. Clicking all spaces being 0 would have been easier. You define width as 7. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I did do that, but you wouldn't normally do that. Oh, sorry, just carry on. What if you wanted it to be 7 again? Well, the thing is, like, why do you want it to be 7 again? If you want it to be 7 again, you can just make it equal 7 again if you want. But like, it's not really practical that you would have gone. Oh, make width plus 6, make width equal 7, make it because like you wouldn't normally do that. But those are examples of this is how it works and how you can do stuff. But you wouldn't normally want to say, oh, it equals plus that, unless you. I mean, well, that's not true because in grid we do. So in the grid, spot location is where we start. So we're starting on 0, and when you move, obviously spot location ends up changing. So it's convoluted, but the move, eventually you say move to here, it checks if you can, and then it says, well, I can move to there. So set the value inside the grid to 0 for where I used to be. Now set it to 2 for where I'm moving to, because the 2 is the spot. And then it says the new spot location is where to. So that has changed spot location to where to. And you're saying, well, what if I wanted to go back to 0 again? Well, if you want to, you could make a method that just says make spot location equal to 0. If you would, like, but I don't know why you would want to. If you wanted to say, oh, reset it, I just want to go back to my starting position, then fine, you can do that. Like, you could just make the public, you could just make move here public instead of private. And then I could, from the main method, I could just say move to 0, and then it would basically put you back to 0 again, because it would say, can I move to 0? Yes, you can. Okay, well, move to 0. But like in the context of the width value, like it's not, you wouldn't normally go width is 6, now it's 6 plus 7, I'll now put it back to 7 for any real reason other than just to demonstrate that's how the numbers work. Yeah, so code runs one line at a time from the top to the bottom. And then when it gets to the end, it stops and the program ends. But it won't always get to the end for various reasons. But I mean, that's not what. So yeah, because like you saw, I was running this. It does it in that order. If I run it again, it starts from the top again. It does it in that order. If you see two definitions, make things and use them in the lines of code above them. Who does that? You can't do that. Where have I done that? Oh right, yeah, no. But what you're talking about there is the blocked one. You mean like this? Yeah, but like that is to do with the flow of code in the same way as in here you've got this, because you know that that's doing movement checker. But you also know that it's doing a thing. It's pretty much the same as this. So I'm just trying to find here. Look, that's not below that, is it? But those two things are two separate things. But what happens is it goes from top to bottom here. It goes do that. Now do movement checker, which goes into here and goes okay, do that, and then it carries on. So it still goes from top to bottom, but if there's a thing that's pointing you somewhere else, it goes and does the other thing and comes back again, which is exactly the same. Like what we're doing in grid. The only difference in some is in part of the code is where we've done this add key listener. This isn't actually getting run. It's saying when a key is pressed, do that. But again, that's basically the same as like in your Scratch project. That's saying when right arrow, do this, but go from top to bottom. It adds the listener. Like when I run it, it goes do this, add a listener, and adding a listener sets it up so that when a key is pressed, it then does this bit. So it goes okay, run that. So move up, print out. So if I do up, it goes move up, print out. But move up is from top to bottom. Call move. Okay, well I'm going to call move. Move is can move, so it will go to can move and go through there, and then return something. And if it's okay, then it will go through there, and that's the end because it's not going anywhere else. Well, actually, it's not the end. It goes back to the next line, which is print out a blank and then print out a grid. So it's just like it is going from top to bottom, but it can follow through. Like if I move that above that, That doesn't matter because that is a method, and like basically the same in the same way as movement checker is a method. So it's saying move, and then that is going to there. Like if movement checker was calling some other thing, then like it would just go to that one, finish that one, come back to here, carry on, come back to here, carry on. So it's like you're opening up branches, but eventually those branches are all going to close. It's going to come back to the same point and carry on going down the same list. So it is going from top to bottom of the code, but you just have to think about the reading it as if you call a method, it jumps to it. And you can see like the definitions of a method by the curly brackets. And that bit there is basically saying define. So when you have define whatever, it's like this is a private method. It returns a boolean and it's called can move, and then it can take in some parameters. And it's similar, I guess, in Scratch, you basically, instead of taking in parameters, you would set global parameters like you're doing here. You're saying set position C, but it's like you have to have that existing, and everything has to know how to read it. Whereas if instead you go, well, you could say, well, get C. So instead of saying movement checker and then position C because that's that set it, you could just have a method called get C, and then you could place it in there, and then you wouldn't have to set some global thing that. Well, anyway, that doesn't really matter. But the point is, it goes from the start to the finish. But apart from listeners and stuff, where if you set a listener, then it will go, well, I'm constantly listening for something to happen, and when it happens, then I'm going to run some code. Which is why we can draw this shit. I wonder if I can draw it inside this box here. Yeah, but like, don't you sleep until like 1 p.m. and then stay up all night or something? Yeah, I don't know. I said, don't you sleep on that? I don't know. Ah. G.print with open declaration. Damn it, 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 damn it. Cool. Where the frickin' hell is the frickin'? Where's the backslash key? Where's the backslash key? God, I hate this keyboard. Where is it? I don't know where it is. I don't know where it is. I definitely need a new keyboard. Thanks, that's definitely the backslash. I just made it so that you can, so it returns the string instead of printing it out to a screen. It creates that string and returns it. Because I want to try and make it so that that pop-up box has it in instead of the console. But what? What? What's that? Oh, hang on. So yeah, I'm trying to when you're building a program, like you can add stuff to it. So I need to make a panel. Border layer. So you can sort of say later. This is all done stuff that's done for you. Frame.add pane. No, so yeah, so you want to start adding a mouse listener. Yeah, which is why you get here. You can add it. No, but what you could do is you could have it so that when you do that search to check stuff, you can be like, oh, there's a hidden object here. Like, look, you found something. That didn't do it. It just didn't work. J text area. Hey, check this out. Woo! So What do you mean that objects are not actually integrated to the grid? So can't you have it? I mean, I don't know how mouse work. How does the mouse listener work in Scratch? Like, how does it? Can you do mouse events? So now I've made this, and this is our grid, right? And if I do this now, check it out. I'm moving the 2 around on our grid. So this is all just printing text, so not drawing squares or anything. But this is the thing. I can't find it though. I've lost track. It's so like I'm a bit blinded to it. Oh, there it is. But like it's there, and I'm moving it around. And the grid is pretty massive at the minute. But like as you can see, you can go like let's just do 20 by 20. Let's run that. God, I've got so many programs running right now. Okay, so let's run it. And okay, so a 20 by 20 grid here. And I've got that wall sitting there, but nothing else. But you can have sort of in the grid. You could have like, oh, what about if you go to a certain place on the grid? It could sort of trigger you going to a new grid, and you could set it up so you can actually create grids in like a file that say, oh, load this file, and here's all of the positions of the walls and other stuff. And like you could even say, well, this is an exit that goes to another file. So you can have like loading files into your grid, have you moving around on them, and then if you go to certain places, it switches to a different grid, and you could define them. Well, you could define them however you want. But I think graphics is probably like the next thing we need to look at, because, well, not necessarily, but this is quite hard to see the number 2 walking around in there. Well, you can combine them together. So you can say mouse down, but does it say where the mouse is going down? But you've got that look. So you could go when. No, but what? So it might not be accurate. It doesn't make sense. How do I do when? How do I do when mouse down? When? space is pressed when state, and backdrop switches to when. No, it doesn't. But it doesn't matter. Like it will though, won't it? How are you drawing that sprite? Where's that? Like, where's the code that draws it? Is it in the sprite? Set point to 1. Go to -200. Erase all. Length for set. Switch costume. Stamp. So that draws it, doesn't it? Stamp. Else switch costume to costume 1. Stamp. So that's like, okay. Change springboard. So repeat length of board. For each length of the board, set Y to that. Right. So look, you've got your maths. You've got your maths here. So you. Ugh. So like, you can do that. Like, you can do it. You definitely can do it. So like, hang on. Where are we? Yeah, but you can translate. You can translate them. Look, hang on. Where are you? I want to go back to the board. But oh man, this is horrible. So when backdrop, can you not do when mouse down? Like it just had when stage clicked. That. Yeah, I know it's just a representation of a list, but you chose to draw it in a particular place, which means you know where you drew it. Switched. Hang on. Can you just make it say something like come up with a value, or can I create? How can I create a value? How do I make one of these things? Yeah. So look what's happening here. So you can do this, right? So when you're drawing these, you're going to there, right? So you're starting at -200. So basically, you can work out which square, which column and which row it's in by the fact that um, you're moving it by 25 each time. So you go like you can go. Hang on. You don't need to do that. You just need to go. Um, Hang on, variable mouse x. Make a variable. Yeah, it would only work for as long as you keep the grid in the same place, but that's like saying, but like your grid is there because of that, yeah, because of -200. Okay, well if I go, if I make a variable called grid start, and I use that, then I can use grid start in both places, can't I? If I use grid start in both places, I just have to set grid start to whatever I want it to be when I start the program up, and then they're both accessing it, which is the whole point of a variable. That's how variables, you can just use them in different places. Is there a way to set like an initial value of it? Yeah. No. Yeah, but where do you do that? But anyway, I'm not going to do that. So the point is, say it's at minus 200, but so I just assume it starts at minus 200 for now. So when the stage is clicked, I can go and get the mouse X. Mouse X is this way, right? So, and you're going go to X minus 200. So you're adding 25 each time. So between variables set. I want to set click column to mouse X divided by 25. I would like to do that because it's a mod. Nice. Minus X mod 25 minus mouse X minus 200. No, mod isn't the right number thing. Sorry. You want it to be divided by 25, and then come on, go in that fucking gap. Why want to go in that gap? Go in that gap. And then you want to go floor of that. So click col is that one. Let's see if that works then. So nearly. I'll end up with -1 column. So it's not quite working. Hang on. So 10. Why is it saying 10 there? Oh, that's y, isn't it? Set y to 10. Set x to minus 200 plus 25 times letter 1 of that. I don't know, why have you actually got that there? That's weird. It doesn't need to be there, does it? Because that's basically going to do that anyway. And the letter always starts with 1, so basically, actually 225 is the start. And you stamp it. I'm guessing that's 25 pixels. As bright as 25 pixels long, isn't it? And that's, but if it's blocked, then do a red one. If it's not, then do a black one. So that's not quite working, but I think that's what I need to do. 25. Column 0. So it's sort of a little bit off though. I don't know why. So 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1. Fucking. But look, see, I've just made it so that you can see which column you clicked on. And you can do that with a row as well. And then you can basically go, when it's clicked, you then have a row and a column, so you can then append those together to work out a value. Pixels from the middle of the sprite. God, so Jesus, that's a pain in the ass. 200 is the middle of the first black square. No, I don't think it is. I think 213 is because you're always doing minus 200 plus something times, and it's at least one. So the first one will be stamped at 225. It's not quite working. Plus one. What do you mean? It's just right. It's like fucking. Oh, what the fuck? No, because I'm going backwards, aren't I? So actually, I need to do 197. No, 187.5. And that's minus one. Yeah. Anyway, that's how to do it, right? That's nearly gonna work. I just can't work out. Minus 225. No, because that's what I tried to do, didn't I? Because you will end up with anything between 0 and 25 being uh, hang on a minute. Let's just debug this a little bit. So if we make a mouse X and we set mouse X to mouse X. Oh shit! So we set mouse X to mouse X. Can we do that? Oh, you don't need to do that. You can just select it. So select mouse X to mouse X. So then, like right on that edge, just minus 217, 215, 217, and then right on that edge there, it's minus 192. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to say so minus 217 like is inside it. That's where 0 should start. So if you say and actually let's just take that out for now. Because that'll let us see the fraction. So we start getting to 1. It's fucking bizarre. So originally what I did, I was like, well, basically I want to do minus 217. So so that should be 0. That should be 0. And then that should go up, up, up to 1. So 0, 1. Okay, that's working. So if I put that into there, has that stopped working? Okay, so that worked. That works in my mind um, because uh, zero indexing and shit. So I need to just 42. There we go. So column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5. There we go, done it. So that's column 1, that's column 2, that's column 3, column 4, column 5. So wherever, because then that's going to work now. So I need to just make it a click row. And do the same. So, oh, that did work. Okay, so we need to, we want to set. To be honest, we don't really need these variables, do we? We could just get rid of them and just use that block to replicate it. Because you can go set click row to that's literally just 35. That should be mouse Y. Oh my god, that's so annoying. Oh my god, that's so annoying. God no, why am I doing minus minus there? I did not know why I've done that. Right, so now if I do that, I don't need mouse X anymore, do I? Variable mouse X. So you've got click column and click row. So that should be 1 1. Shit. Oh, I mean that's sort of working. that's that's sort of working. Oh no, hang on. So does Y? Yeah, that's hang on. Mousy, oi oi, mousy, mashed potatoes. Yeah, so Y gets more negative as it goes down the screen, which is not normal. Yeah, I know you could just do that, but I don't want to half be right. So as you go down, so Y gets more negative. So like, I know that, yeah, that breaks my head. So that's not normally how programming languages work. Like normally the top left of a screen is 0 0, and as you come down the screen, Y goes up. That is not normal for maths, and obviously this is using a normal mathematical grid. So, oh, it's becoming more negative as it goes down, which makes sense. So I want my column. Did we start at 10, don't we? So Mousy starts at 17. Yeah, I know what you mean. The act not always in the middle, and yeah, I get it. So mouse goes down. I don't know. I'm annoyed now. I've done this silly. mouse x plus 242. So this one should be mouse x minus okay, just divided by minus 25. Doesn't quite work though, because what? So it's starting on 20. I don't really get that. So 20 is my starting point. So let's just do that 20. So that sets it to 0. Oh no, but I've done it wrong, haven't I? Because I want that to be I want that to be so mouse y 20. I want it to start at 0, but I don't want it to start at 0. I want it to start with 1. So I actually need to add 2. Oh, I've done it the wrong way around. Minus 32. No, minus 38. I don't know. But basically that's it, see? So I'm getting row and column when I click now. And you can have it so that when you change where you draw the grid, it works by basically making where you draw the grid into variables. But that's not. It's not. I just get confused. 20. It should be 12, shouldn't it? So like, but it's not. That's definitely not right. Because like, mouse y is drawing. I'm sure that it's starting at 10, isn't it? Set y to 10 plus minus 25. So it's going. That's weird because it's going 15. Because it's going to be going on to 15 and then drawing up by 12. So it's like the start of it is minus 3. Is that right? No, it's going to 15 because adding 25, and then it's drawing the 25 in the middle. So yeah, so it's like minus 3 is the first one. So yes, so minus 38 should be the second one. So that should be right. Oh no, it should be minus 12. So minus 37. It starts at 22. It sort of does, doesn't it? Well, no. If you click like there, it's like 20. Like I'm clicking right on the top of that first one, and mouse Y, according to the click, is 20. And then if you come to that white line in between them, it is minus 4. So basically, I'm trying to go. Oh man! So if it is 20, then I need that to be 45 because then oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, so that's working now. Um, so if you need, so basically you don't, I'm guessing you don't actually need the variables if you don't want them, because you can just append those two together to get your thing. Huh, really? So when the right is clicked, I don't understand why this is not. So you're saying if it contains that, oh, because you place item position. What's position? H. So you're saying if it contains, what's that question mark? Contains that. Oh, because you're joining an S onto it as well. And that's because you're saying if it contains um, a stop. So if it's not a stop or it's greater than the columns, then then so if so basically you need to do that check anyway. Um, but you've got so I need that join back, I guess. Um, duplicate that. So if it doesn't contain a stop, then I'm assuming it contains an actual. And what's position? What's position? 53. Oh, that's like yeah where you currently are. Join position H in board with item item number of that, replace the number that has a H, which is where you are in board, with position without a H on. So take you out of your current location and then set position to that, and then replace position with position to H. Okay, right, so now when I click on the board, it'll move the blue thing there. When I click on the board, it'll move the blue. What? Oh man. Like, I swear it just did something. Look, it said 1. Look, it's just not moving it. Why isn't it drawing it? How do I make it draw it? That's annoying. Because look, it's definitely working. Because like, I click on, look, it works. Click on 1, it goes to H. If I click on 6, it goes to 12. That's working, but it ain't moving the blue thing. Tell me, why isn't it moving the blue thing? Oh, the blue thing's not moving at all. Sounds broken. Help. Space 44 ASQ. Wait, what? Why do I have to do ASQ? Hey, look. Hey, look. Who's the best? If I click on the red one, it won't do it. But this is not what the point of this video was supposed to be. It was supposed to be making this thing in Java. Sorry, but I don't think so. I think we worked on that. We worked on that together, didn't we? And we definitely did. And now look, it moves to where you click. It sort of does, but I think I've sort of offset it a little bit by accident. Well, I didn't mean to. I was trying to help you. Yeah, I mean, I can explain what I did. I mean, I think you know what I did though, but I can go for, I can. I'm really tired. I'm so tired. But yeah, if you oh, we don't need mouse Y anymore. I actually think it's much nicer to do this and do like set click row, set click column, and then that is the row. No, that's the column, and that's the row. No. Oh shit. Fucked it. That's the row. Oh yeah. And also, it doesn't check that your position is valid either, so it needs to do that. It needs to basically say like, so you want to join. Oh fuck, I've forgotten what it does. It joins the column to the row, and that's an S. And the same here is what I do during the click column to the click row. And then you can delete it. What do you mean? And why do I have to press all these random keys? Events, columns, if, it stores rows, doesn't it? It stores columns. So you can go, basically I need a bunch of shit now. So if variables, if click row, operators. I need a bunch of ants. This is why this is horrible, because you have to do like a fucking mental. If click row is greater than 0 and click row is less than oh shit, operators. Oh, you can't do less than or equal to. You can't do less than or equal to in the same thing. Ugh, that's a bit of a stupid variable. What's columns and rows in? Column and row, columns 2. Oh, columns 2 is just columns plus 1, is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, it's not. Columns plus. Oh no, I did that wrong anyway. Rows plus 1. Click row operator. If click row is greater than 0 and variable click row n is greater than plus 1. If click rows is greater than variables rows less than rows plus 1, then that can go in there. Then if I click somewhere else, it won't do anything. Press F. So you press F and it does question marks. Then what? Then you click on one of them question marks. do you want me to like have you done this, or do you want me to just like turn it off? I don't know. I'm going to bed now. I'm really tired, and like I totally should have gone to bed at like 11 o'clock. Yeah, you might want to like just parameterize the starting positions of the grid so you can go like, yeah, I know, me too. But it's been good. You learned some Java. Yay. Um, yeah. Also, phone up and get an MOT book tomorrow, because then you can like get your car working.